The Force binds all things across the galaxy, connecting every living being in an invisible web of energy and destiny. For thousands of years, the Jedi had studied this mystical power, believing they understood its every manifestation. They were wrong. Some powers existed beyond the Force's touch, operating on principles the galaxy had never witnessed. And on a quiet afternoon in Papa Smurf's laboratory, one such power was about to change everything. Papa Smurf ground the crystalline powder with methodical precision, his centuries of alchemical knowledge guiding every measured movement. The substance shimmered with an iridescent quality he'd never encountered before, a meteor fragment that had fallen near the village 3 moons prior. Brainy Smurf had insisted it was just iron with unusual mineral deposits. Papa Smurf knew better. The way it hummed when exposed to moonlight, the way it seemed to drink in starlight and hold it captive within its lattice structure, this was something extraordinary. Perhaps just a pinch more sassafras root, he muttered, adjusting his white beard as he consulted the ancient tome propped open beside his workstation. The recipe was his own creation, an experimental elixir designed to let Smurfs see by starlight as clearly as by day. Useful for gathering mushrooms during the dangerous nocturnal hours when Azrael prowled the forest. The laboratory occupied the entire upper floor of Papa Smurf's mushroom house, filled with bubbling retorts, hanging dried herbs, and shelves lined with bottles of every conceivable color. Afternoon sunlight filtered through the round windows, casting warm patches across his workspace. Outside, the village hummed with its usual peaceful activity, Harmony Smurf practicing his trumpet, Greedy Smurf tending his outdoor ovens, the sound of Handy Smurf's hammer ringing from the workshop. Papa Smurf added the sassafras root and began stirring clockwise, counting each rotation. At the 13th stir, the mixture began to glow. Not the gentle luminescence he'd expected, but a fierce, pulsating brilliance that seemed to tear at the fabric of reality itself. The liquid in his cauldron swirled faster than his stirring warranted, creating a vortex that pulled at the very air around it. By the great Smurf! Papa Smurf stumbled backward as the cauldron's contents erupted upward in a column of liquid light. The beam punched through his ceiling, through the mushroom-capped roof, and continued skyward. Where it touched the air, reality fractured like broken glass, revealing something beyond, an impossible darkness filled with distant stars that weren't the stars Papa Smurf knew. The village bell began ringing frantically. Papa Smurf could hear Smurfs shouting, but their voices seemed distant, distorted, as if traveling through water. He tried to reach the cauldron to knock it over, to stop whatever catastrophe he'd unleashed, but the air had become thick as honey. Each step took enormous effort. The rift above his house expanded, its edges crackling with energy that tasted of copper and ozone. The column of light widened, and suddenly gravity reversed. Papa Smurf felt his feet leave the floor as everything in his laboratory, books, potions, dried herbs, his favorite reading chair, began floating upward toward the tear in reality. Evacuate the village! Papa Smurf shouted, though he doubted anyone could hear him over the deafening roar that now filled the air. The mushroom houses themselves were beginning to shake, their roots tearing free from the earth. He caught a glimpse through his window of Smurfs running in panic, of Hefty trying to hold down the village well, of Smurfette grabbing Sisette and Baby Smurf. Then the rift consumed everything. Papa Smurf experienced a moment of impossible sensation. He was stretched across infinite distance, compressed to a single point, existing in 1,000 places simultaneously. He felt the laboratory dissolve around him, felt the entire village pulled into the cosmic wound his experiment had created. Through the chaos, he sensed his fellow Smurfs, each one a small blue beacon of consciousness tumbling through the void between worlds. The journey lasted an eternity and an instant. Reality reasserted itself with violent suddenness. Papa Smurf slammed into something soft and yielding, moss, he realized, thick emerald moss covering the branch of a tree so massive it could have swallowed his entire village. He groaned, checking himself for injuries. Bruised, certainly. Possibly a cracked rib. But alive. The forest around him was wrong. The trees towered like mountains, their trunks wider than castles, their canopies so thick above that only scattered beams of light penetrated to the forest floor far below. The air tasted strange, humid, rich with unfamiliar spores and pollens that made his alchemist's nose twitch with curiosity. The sounds were equally alien, strange bird calls that seemed to harmonize in ways that suggested intelligence, the rustle of something large moving through the undergrowth, and in the distance, a mechanical whining that had no place in any natural forest. Papa Smurf. Brainy's voice called from somewhere above. I'm stuck in what appears to be some kind of bioluminescent fungal growth, and I must say, this is exactly the sort of catastrophe I predicted would result from experimenting with unknown celestial materials. Can the lecture, Brainy? That was hefty, his voice strained with effort. I'm trying to get Clumsy down from this vine before he falls. Papa Smurf pulled himself to his feet, relief flooding through him. If they were complaining, they were alive. Everyone, sound off. I need to know who made it through. The responses came from all directions, voices calling from branches above and below, from tangles of vines, from inside hollow tree knots. The responses came from all directions, voices calling from branches above and below, from tangles of vines, from inside hollow tree knots. As Papa Smurf coordinated the gathering, a count began to take shape. 157 Smurfs accounted for. Including, miraculously, the entire village structure. Looking down through the branches, Papa Smurf spotted his own mushroom house wedged between two massive roots, its red cap slightly crumpled but intact. Other houses dotted the area, scattered but whole. Where in the name of all that Smurfy are we? Vanity Smurf emerged from behind a leaf the size of a sail, his mirror somehow unbroken. This place is absolutely not conducive to maintaining one's appearance. Before Papa Smurf could answer, the mechanical whining grew louder, accompanied now by heavy footfalls that shook the branches. Through the forest canopy, Papa Smurf glimpsed something that made his centuries of experience feel suddenly inadequate, massive white figures moving with military precision, carrying weapons that glowed with contained energy. Everyone hide, Papa Smurf whispered urgently. Something's coming. Something I don't think is from any world we know. The Smurfs scattered like blue shadows, vanishing into the alien forest with practiced stealth. Papa Smurf pressed himself against the tree bark, watching as the white-armored giants passed below, their voices crackling through devices on their helmets. Sector 779 clear. No separatist activity detected. Copy that. Keep scanning. Command says there was some kind of energy surge in this area. Could be a cloaked dropship. Or another one of Dooku's experiments. I hate this smuffing jungle. Papa Smurf's mind raced. The language was unfamiliar, yet somehow he understood it, perhaps a lingering effect of the dimensional breach. These beings spoke of command structures, of war, of names he didn't recognize. And they were looking for the energy surge that had brought the Smurfs here. As the patrol moved on, Papa Smurf allowed himself a long breath. Whatever world his experiment had brought them to, one thing was clear, they were very small, very lost, and very, very far from home. And if those armored giants represented the friendly forces in this place, he wasn't sure he wanted to meet the enemies. Gather around, he called softly once the patrol had passed. We need to build a council circle. Something tells me we're going to need all our wisdom to survive whatever this place is. The Smurfs emerged from hiding, their faces showing the same mixture of fear and wonder that Papa Smurf felt. They'd survived Gargamel's schemes, natural disasters, and countless adventures in their own world. But this? This was something entirely new. As they began the careful work of climbing down to where their village houses had landed, Papa Smurf couldn't shake the feeling that they'd stumbled into something far larger and more dangerous than anything they'd faced before. The force that governed this galaxy remained blind to their presence, unable to detect the strange alchemical energy that powered Papa Smurf's potions. In a universe of Jedi and Sith, of Republic and Separatist, the Smurfs were an unknown variable. And in a galaxy at war, unknown variables didn't survive long. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. The clone trooper patrol had been gone for 2 hours, but Papa Smurf kept the village on high alert. The Smurfs worked with remarkable efficiency despite their circumstances, forming bucket brigades to salvage scattered belongings and construction teams to assess structural damage. Handy Smurf had already begun cataloging what they'd need to make the village defensible in this alien environment. The good news, Handy reported, adjusting his pencil behind his ear, is that most of our houses made it through intact. The bad news is that we're sitting on exposed roots in a forest that seems designed to eat anything smaller than a boulder. We need walls, camouflage, and some kind of early warning system. Papa Smurf nodded, studying the massive tree they'd landed beneath. Its bark had a peculiar quality, slightly translucent in places, revealing bioluminescent channels that pulsed with slow rhythm. This tree is alive in ways our trees never were. I can feel it. Feel it how? Brainy pushed his glasses up his nose. Because if you're suggesting some kind of mystical connection, I should point out that we have no empirical evidence. Brainy, Papa Smurf interrupted gently, look at the bark. Really look. Brainy squinted, then gasped. The bioluminescent channels weren't random, they formed patterns, almost like neural pathways. And where Papa Smurf had placed his hand against the trunk, the glow intensified slightly, as if responding to his touch. Fascinating, Brainy breathed. It's as if the entire tree is a single organism with a rudimentary nervous system. The implications for... A rustling sound cut him off. Every Smurf froze, looking toward the source. Something was moving through the underbrush at ground level, something large enough to make the vegetation sway. Papa Smurf signaled for silence, and the Smurfs melted into the shadows between roots and fungi. What emerged was nothing like the armored giants from before. This creature stood upright on 2 legs but was covered in mottled green and brown skin that seemed to shift colors to match its surroundings. It had 4 arms, each ending in 3-fingered hands, and its head was dominated by large, multifaceted eyes that swiveled independently. It wore simple clothing, a vest with many pockets and loose trousers, and carried a woven basket. The creature began examining mushrooms growing from the forest floor, selecting some and passing over others with practiced judgment. A forager, Papa Smurf realized. An intelligent being who lived in this forest and knew its resources. Should we make contact? Smurfette whispered from Papa Smurf's left. It was a calculated risk. They needed information about this world, needed allies who understood the local dangers. But revealing themselves to the wrong person could lead to capture, exploitation, or worse. Papa Smurf made his decision. Stay hidden unless I signal otherwise. He stepped out onto a route where the creature would see him, making himself visible. The creature's eyes locked onto Papa Smurf instantly, all 4 arms freezing mid-reach. For a long moment, neither moved. Then the creature slowly lowered its basket and sank into a crouch, bringing its face closer to Papa Smurf's level. Well, the creature said in a melodious voice that suggested amusement, this is new. 300 years I've foraged these roots, and I've never seen anything quite like you. What manner of being are you, little blue one? I am Papa Smurf, he said, keeping his voice steady despite his racing heart. Leader of my people. We arrived here unexpectedly. Through means I'm still trying to understand. The creature tilted its head, multiple eyes studying Papa Smurf from different angles simultaneously. Arrived from where? There are no settlements within 100 kilometers of this grove. The war has driven everyone away. The war, Papa Smurf repeated carefully. Between those armored giants and someone else. Armored giants. The creature made a sound that might have been laughter. You mean the clone troopers? Republic soldiers fighting the Separatist droid armies. This moon, Felucia, we call it, has been contested territory for months. Most of the native population has fled to the southern continent or off-world entirely. And you stayed. Someone must tend the forests, the creature said simply. I am Nisser, last groundskeeper of the Felucian botanical sanctuaries. The Republic pays me no mind, and the droids care nothing for lone foragers. I've survived by being beneath notice. Those multifaceted eyes focused more intently. As, I suspect, you might as well. You're very small. Small enough that the war machines wouldn't detect you, wouldn't consider you worth their attention. Papa Smurf felt a glimmer of hope. We need help, Nisser. My people are peaceful. We know nothing of wars with droids and clones and whatever else exists in this place. We need to understand where we are and how to survive. Nisser was quiet for a moment, two of its eyes watching Papa Smurf while the others scanned the forest for threats. You're force sensitive, aren't you? I can feel something emanating from you. Not the force itself, but something adjacent to it. Like a parallel current. I don't know what the force is, Papa Smurf admitted. But I practice alchemy. Potions and elixirs that can heal, transform, protect. It was an alchemical experiment that brought us here. Alchemy. Nisser's tone suggested fascination. The Jedi would be very interested in you. They're always seeking force phenomena they don't understand. But, the creature paused, considering. Perhaps we keep your presence between us for now. The Republic means well, but they're desperate. Desperate people make poor decisions about who and what they're willing to exploit for victory. A twig snapped behind Papa Smurf. He turned to see Hefty emerging from cover, followed by Handy, Brainy, and Smurfette. Then more Smurfs, dozens of them, appearing from their hiding places. They'd heard the conversation and made their own choice to trust. Nisser's eyes widened, all four simultaneously expressing astonishment. By the ancient trees, there are so many of you. You're not a lone creature, you're an entire civilization in miniature. 157 of us, Papa Smurf confirmed. Our whole village was transported here. We have our homes, our tools, our knowledge. What we lack is understanding of this galaxy we've found ourselves in. A galaxy at war, Nisser said softly, looking at the assembled Smurfs with what Papa Smurf recognized as concern. Where armies of millions clash over planets and star systems. Where the Jedi Order serves a republic spanning thousands of worlds, opposed by separatists who command endless droid legions. Where beings like you, the creature gestured at the Smurfs with one of its four hands, would be considered curiosities at best, experimental subjects at worst. Then we'll stay hidden, Hefty said, crossing his arms. We're good at hiding. Gargamel never could find us when we didn't want to be found. Gargamel? Nisser asked. Our old enemy, Smurfette explained. A wizard who hunted us for years, trying to capture us for his own purposes. We learned to be clever, to use our size as an advantage. Nisser nodded slowly. That skill will serve you well here. But you should know, this forest is not uninhabited. The Republic maintains a small outpost 3 kilometers west. The Separatists send scout droids through here regularly, searching for Republic positions. And there are predators, Acklays, Korot, Jelligrubs that can swallow a being your size whole. We'll need defenses, Handy said immediately. Walls, traps, alarm systems. And information, Brainy added. We must compile a comprehensive encyclopedia of local flora and fauna, document the political structure of this conflict, and we'll need friends, Papa Smurf interrupted, looking at Nisser. Will you help us? The Felucian forager was silent for a long moment, its multiple eyes reflecting the filtered sunlight in complex patterns. Then it extended one hand toward Papa Smurf. Not all four, Papa Smurf noted, just one. The Smurfs scattered to their tasks with practiced efficiency. Nisser watched them go, an expression that might have been admiration crossing its alien features. You lead them well, the Felucian observed. I've had a long time to learn, Papa Smurf replied. Though I suspect this place will test everything I know in ways I can't yet imagine. Above them, through gaps in the massive canopy, Papa Smurf caught glimpses of the sky. It wasn't the sky he knew, the stars would be different, the moon unfamiliar, the very air tasted of a world that had never heard of Smurfs or their simple village. They were strangers in an impossible place, refugees from a gentler reality thrust into a galaxy that measured power in star destroyers and clone armies. But they were alive. They were together. And as long as Papa Smurf drew breath, he would find a way to keep his people safe, even in a galaxy at war. The probe droid arrived exactly when Nisser predicted. Papa Smurf watched from beneath a shelf fungus as the spherical machine drifted through the forest canopy, its photoreceptors scanning in multiple spectrums. The device was about the size of hefty Smurf, which meant it was enormous by Smurf standards, and it moved with mechanical precision, pausing periodically to extend sensor arrays that swept the area with invisible energy. "Don't move," Nisser whispered from nearby. The Felucian had remained with them, teaching them the basics of forest survival. Those sensors are designed to detect movement, heat signatures, and electronic emissions. Your village registers as natural growth, the organic mushroom structures confuse its pattern recognition. But if it spots you moving... The probe droid hovered directly over their village. Papa Smurf held his breath as its central photoreceptor rotated, analyzing every root and mushroom. For a terrifying moment, it paused over Handy's workshop, where metal tools might have triggered an alert. Then it continued on, apparently satisfied that this area contained nothing of military significance. When it finally disappeared into the deeper forest, every Smurf released a collective exhale. "That was too close," Hefty muttered, checking the camouflage netting they'd strung between roots. "We need better concealment." "We need to understand what we're concealing from," Brainy countered, furiously scribbling notes. "That device operates on principles I've never encountered. The way it scanned multiple frequencies simultaneously suggests technology centuries beyond anything from our world." "Centuries beyond," Papa Smurf repeated quietly, an idea forming. "Nisser, you mentioned the Jedi. What exactly are they?" The Felucian settled onto a root, all four arms folding in a contemplative gesture. "The Jedi are peacekeepers, warriors, and mystics who serve the Galactic Republic. They wield the Force, an energy field that binds all living things together. With it, they can move objects without touching them, sense thoughts and emotions, see glimpses of the future, and fight with abilities that seem supernatural to those without Force sensitivity." "Magic," Smurfette said. "Like Papa Smurf's potions." "No," Nisser corrected gently. "Your Papa Smurf's alchemy is different. I've spent 2 days observing while he worked, and the energy signature is unlike anything the Force produces. The Jedi draw power from life itself, from the midichlorians in living cells. Your alchemy seems to work through principles I don't understand. Chemical transmutation combined with something else. Something that exists outside the Force's normal framework." Papa Smurf considered this carefully. Since arriving on Felucia, he'd continued his alchemical experiments, testing how his formulas worked in this new reality. The results had been encouraging. His potions functioned exactly as they had back home. A healing elixir still healed. A strength tonic still strengthened. But there was something different about the process here, a resonance he couldn't quite define. "If the Jedi encountered us," Papa Smurf asked, "what would they do?" "That depends on which Jedi you met," Nisser replied. "Some are wise and compassionate, like Master Plo Koon who commands the garrison west of here. Others are more rigid, bound by rules and doctrine. The Jedi Council on Coruscant might view your alchemy as a threat, something that should be studied or contained. Or they might simply see you as curiosities, primitives from an uncharted world to be catalogued and forgotten." "Neither option sounds appealing," Hefty growled. Before anyone could respond, the ground trembled. Not the gentle shaking of footsteps, but a sustained vibration that rattled the mushroom houses and sent small creatures scattering through the undergrowth. In the distance, Papa Smurf heard thunder that wasn't thunder, the distinctive booms of explosions. "The war has found us again," Nisser said grimly, rising to full height. "That's artillery. Heavy weapons. The Separatists must be launching an assault on the Republic outpost. Is the battle coming this way? Smurfette asked, pulling Sisette and baby Smurf close. Difficult to say. The fighting shifts like wind through the forest. One moment it's kilometers away, the next. A high-pitched whine cut through the air, growing rapidly louder. Papa Smurf looked up just in time to see something streaking through the canopy, a damaged fighter craft, trailing smoke and spinning out of control. It clipped branches, sending debris raining down, before crashing somewhere to the north with an impact that shook the entire forest. Republic starfighter, Nisser identified. Z-95 Headhunter, older model. Pilot's probably dead, but if they survived, the Felucian trailed off, conflict evident in its posture. If they survived, they need help, Papa Smurf finished. He looked at his fellow Smurfs, seeing the same mixture of fear and determination he felt. They were peaceful people, yes. But they'd never been the kind to ignore someone in need. How far? Papa Smurf, no, Brainy protested. We can't risk exposure for one unknown pilot who's probably already. 500 meters, Nisser interrupted, pointing. Maybe less. And Brainy is right, this is dangerous. If the pilot survived, they'll call for rescue. That means clone troopers, maybe Jedi. Your village will be discovered. Then we need to reach them first, Papa Smurf decided. Assess the situation before any rescue team arrives. Hefty, Handy, Smurfette, you're with me. Brainy, you're in command while I'm gone. Keep everyone hidden and ready to evacuate if necessary. Evacuate to where? Brainy squeaked. We don't know this forest. Then pray it doesn't come to that. The journey to the crash site was treacherous. Papa Smurf's group moved along roots and branches, avoiding the forest floor where predators lurked. Nisser guided them, using its camouflage skin to scout ahead while the Smurfs followed paths that kept them concealed. The sound of battle grew louder, blaster fire in steady rhythms, the mechanical march of droid armies, and beneath it all, a strange harmonic hum that made Papa Smurf's teeth ache. They found the crash site in a small clearing where the fighter had carved a burning trench through the undergrowth. The vessel was crumpled, its cockpit canopy shattered. And slumped in the pilot's seat, still moving weakly, was a figure in orange flight suit and helmet. Still alive, Handy observed. Barely. The pilot's helmet speakers crackled. Anyone, Sector 12, pilot down, need immediate. The voice faded into static. Papa Smurf made a decision that would change everything. We help them. How? Hefty demanded. They're huge compared to us. We can't move them, can't get them out of that cockpit. No, Papa Smurf agreed, already pulling ingredients from his pouch. But I can treat them here. A healing potion, modified for someone their size. It won't cure everything, but it might stabilize them until help arrives. And when that help comes? Smurfette asked quietly. When clone troopers find their pilot mysteriously treated with unknown compounds. Then they'll have questions, Papa Smurf acknowledged, grinding herbs between two stones he'd brought for this purpose. Questions that might lead them to us. But the alternative is letting this pilot die when we have the power to save them. I won't do that. Not even to protect our secret. He worked quickly, combining ingredients he'd harvested from Felucia's bizarre flora with components from his original stores. The potion that emerged was deep blue, glowing faintly with alchemical energy. Papa Smurf climbed up the fighter's damaged hull, ignoring the heat from exposed electrical fires, until he reached the cockpit. The pilot's helmet was cracked. Through the broken visor, Papa Smurf glimpsed a young human face, male, barely out of adolescence. Blood trickled from a head wound, and the pilot's breathing was shallow and irregular. Hold on, Papa Smurf whispered, though the pilot couldn't hear him. He carefully poured the potion through the cracked visor, watching as it touched the pilot's lips and was instinctively swallowed. The effect was immediate. The potion's glow spread through the pilot's system, visible as faint blue light beneath the skin. The irregular breathing steadied. The bleeding slowed, then stopped. Color returned to the pilot's pale face. Incredible, Nisser breathed from below. You actually... A new sound interrupted, the distinctive hum of repulsor engines, multiple sources, approaching fast. Nisser's eyes went wide. LAAT gunships. 3 of them. The rescue team. We need to leave, Hefty urged, already climbing down. Now. Papa Smurf took one last look at the stabilized pilot, then followed his people back into the concealment of the forest. They'd barely reached cover when the first gunship descended into the clearing, its searchlights sweeping the crash site. Clone troopers rappelled down, weapons ready, securing the perimeter while medics rushed to the damaged fighter. From their hiding spot, Papa Smurf watched one of the medics scan the pilot with a handheld device. The clone froze, then called out, "Sir. The pilot's vitals are stable. Better than stable, they're recovering. But there's an unknown substance in their bloodstream. Chemical composition doesn't match anything in our database." A figure dropped from the gunship with inhuman grace, landing in a crouch that suggested perfect physical control. When it straightened, Papa Smurf saw a being unlike any he'd encountered, humanoid but with reddish-orange skin, white facial markings, and strange tentacle-like appendages instead of hair. The being wore brown robes and carried a cylindrical weapon on their belt that hummed with barely contained energy. "A Jedi," Nisser whispered. "Master Ahsoka Tano. She's young but powerful, and she has a reputation for being perceptive." Ahsoka approached the fighter, her head tilted as if listening to something only she could hear. She extended one hand toward the pilot, and Papa Smurf felt a strange ripple in the air, the Force, he realized, though he couldn't sense it directly. Ahsoka's expression shifted from concern to confusion to wonder. "Commander," she called to a clone trooper, "send a sample of that unknown substance to the medical frigate. Full analysis. And sweep the area, someone or something treated our pilot with it. They might still be close." The clone troopers began fanning out, scanners active. Papa Smurf and his group melted deeper into the forest, moving with the stealth born from years of evading Gargamel. But as they fled, Papa Smurf noticed Ahsoka turn in their direction, her eyes narrowing as if she'd sensed something at the edge of her perception. "Curious," she murmured to herself. "Very curious." Back at the village an hour later, Papa Smurf called an emergency council. Every Smurf gathered in the central clearing between their relocated mushroom houses, their faces reflecting the gravity of their situation. "We've been discovered," Papa Smurf announced. "Not directly, but the Jedi now knows something unusual exists in this forest. Something that can heal in ways their technology can't explain. They'll search. They'll investigate. And eventually, they'll find us. Then we fight." Hefty declared, raising a fist. "We can't fight armies," Brainy countered. "We're 157 Smurfs against a galaxy of trillions. Basic mathematics dictates." "We don't fight," Papa Smurf interrupted quietly. "And we don't hide forever. We prepare for contact. Because whether we like it or not, the Jedi are coming. And when they arrive, we need to be ready to prove we're not a threat, that we're people, not curiosities or resources to be exploited. How do we prove that to beings who can read minds and move objects with thought?" Smurfette asked. Papa Smurf looked around at his village, at the small mushroom houses that represented their entire world, at the Smurfs who trusted him to lead them through this impossible situation. "By being exactly who we've always been. By showing them that even in a galaxy at war, even among Jedi and Sith and clone armies, there's still room for a small village of people who just want to live in peace." "And if they don't believe us?" Hefty asked. "Then," Papa Smurf said grimly, "we'll learn just how clever small people can be when their survival depends on it." In the distance, the sounds of battle continued. The war didn't care about Smurfs or their village. It raged on, indifferent to the small blue beings caught in its path. The figure landed gracefully on a route 20 meters from the village. When it spoke, the voice was cultured, male, tinged with aristocratic amusement. How extraordinary. I sensed something peculiar in the force during my reconnaissance, a blind spot, an absence where presence should be. And here I find, what, precisely? Diminutive blue humanoids living in primitive dwellings. This galaxy never ceases to surprise. The figure pulled back his hood, revealing an elderly human face with a neatly trimmed white beard and eyes that gleamed with predatory intelligence. He wore robes that suggested nobility, and at his belt hung a cylindrical weapon identical to the one Papa Smurf had seen on the Jedi, except this one pulsed with a subtle red glow. I am Count Dooku, the man continued, studying the village with the clinical interest of a scholar examining insects. Former Jedi Master, now free from the Order's stifling dogma. And you, little creatures, represent an anomaly. The Force cannot touch you directly, I sense your presence only by the void you create in its currents. Fascinating. Tell me, what manner of beings are you? Papa Smurf stepped forward, acutely aware that he was addressing someone who could probably destroy their entire village with a gesture. But showing fear would be fatal. I am Papa Smurf, leader of my people. We are peaceful travelers, displaced from our home through accident. We seek no conflict with anyone in this galaxy. Peaceful, Dooku repeated, descending from his perch to crouch closer to Papa Smurf's level, a gesture that might have seemed respectful if not for the calculating coldness in his eyes. And yet I've received interesting reports from Separatist intelligence. A Republic pilot, crashed and dying, mysteriously healed by an unknown compound. A compound that my scientists analyzed and found to be impossible. It violates several fundamental laws of biochemistry, yet functions with remarkable efficiency. He smiled without warmth. That was your doing, I presume. I'm an alchemist, Papa Smurf confirmed carefully. I treated the pilot because they were dying, and I had the means to help. Nothing more. Nothing more, Dooku echoed. How wonderfully naive. Do you understand what you've revealed? The Republic now knows that something in this forest possesses medical capabilities beyond their considerable technology. They'll search for you. Study you. Perhaps cage you for the greater good of the war effort. He straightened to full height. Unless, of course, you align yourself with those who would appreciate your gifts without seeking to control them. The Separatists, you mean, Papa Smurf said. The Confederacy of Independent Systems, Dooku corrected smoothly. We fight against a corrupt republic that has grown complacent, that serves corporate interests while ignoring the needs of countless worlds. We offer freedom, self-determination, and, for beings such as yourselves, protection from those who would exploit you. Brainy pushed forward despite Hefty's restraining hand. Your Confederacy uses droid armies to conquer planets. Nisser told us about the atrocities committed in the name of independence. You're no better than the Republic you oppose. Dooku's expression didn't change, but something in the air grew colder. Ah, you've been speaking with the Felucian. How unfortunate. Local perspectives tend to be limited. He raised one hand, and suddenly Brainy was lifted into the air, invisible force gripping him. Brainy struggled, gasping, glasses askew. Shall I demonstrate the price of impudence, Papa Smurf? Or will you listen to reason? Release him, Papa Smurf said, fighting to keep his voice steady. He reached into his pouch, fingers closing around a vial of volatile compound, something he prepared for emergencies. Now. Dooku glanced at Papa Smurf's hand and actually laughed. You think to threaten me with your alchemy? I've faced Jedi Masters in combat and emerged victorious. What could a creature 6 inches tall possibly? Papa Smurf threw the vial. His aim, honed by centuries of precise potion-making, was perfect. The glass shattered against Dooku's chest, and the compound reacted instantly with air and fabric. A cloud of caustic vapor erupted, and Dooku stumbled backward with a surprised shout, breaking his force grip on Brainy. The Smurf fell, caught by Hefty before he hit the ground. Vanishing powder mixed with Felucian sting moss extract, Papa Smurf explained as Dooku coughed and his eyes watered. Won't kill you, but it'll make you miserable for hours. Now leave. We want no part of your war. Dooku wiped at his streaming eyes, and when they cleared, there was no more pretense of civility. His face was a mask of cold fury. You dare. A new sound interrupted, the snap hiss of an igniting lightsaber, its blue blade casting sharp shadows through the forest. Ahsoka Tano dropped from the canopy above, landing between Dooku and the village with her weapon held in a defensive stance. Count, she said, her voice tight with controlled anger. Didn't expect to find you here. Away from any strategic targets, investigating what appeared to be a minor energy anomaly. Makes me wonder what you found so interesting. Dooku's lightsaber ignited in response, its blade a crimson mirror to Ahsoka's blue. Padawan Tano. Still playing soldier for a corrupt republic. How tiresome. Former Padawan, Ahsoka corrected. I'm a commander now. And you're in Republic territory, which makes you my prisoner if you surrender, or my target if you don't. Papa Smurf watched in horrified fascination as the two circled each other. Behind him, Nisser whispered urgently, get your people underground. When Force users of this caliber fight, the collateral damage can be catastrophic. But Papa Smurf couldn't move. He was transfixed by the tableau before him, the young warrior in orange facing the elderly Sith Lord, both radiating power that made the very air crackle. This was the galaxy they'd stumbled into, a place where beings could wield energy that bent reality itself. Tell me, Commander, Dooku said conversationally, even as his blade wove defensive patterns, did you discover what healed your pilot? Did you find the source of that impossible compound? Ahsoka's eyes flicked momentarily toward the Smurf village, just a fraction of a second, but enough. Dooku smiled. I see you did. And you're protecting them. How predictably Jedi of you. His blade lashed out in a strike too fast for Papa Smurf to follow. Ahsoka blocked it, the clash of lightsabers producing a sound like screaming metal. But can you protect them and fight me simultaneously? Let's find out. What followed defied Papa Smurf's understanding of combat. Dooku and Ahsoka moved with inhuman speed, their blades weaving patterns of light as they fought across roots and through hanging vines. Dooku fought with elegant precision, each strike economical and deadly. Ahsoka countered with acrobatic ferocity, using the terrain to her advantage, flipping and spinning in ways that shouldn't have been physically possible. But Dooku was toying with her. Papa Smurf could see it, the way the Count controlled the fight's pace, herding Ahsoka away from the village, testing her defenses. And beneath the blade work, Papa Smurf sensed something else happening, an invisible battle of wills fought with the Force itself. A massive root suddenly tore itself from the ground behind Ahsoka, propelled by Dooku's gesture. She sensed it and rolled aside, but the maneuver left her open. Dooku's blade descended toward a killing strike. And froze, halted by nothing visible, while Ahsoka thrust her hand forward. Dooku was pushed backward by invisible force, his feet skidding across the root's surface. The two Force users stood 30 feet apart, both breathing hard, neither having landed a decisive blow. You've improved, Dooku acknowledged. Skywalker's training serves you well. But improvement isn't victory, child. And this stalemate benefits neither of us. Shall we agree to a temporary truce? I'm certain we both have questions for our tiny blue friends that would be better asked without trying to kill each other. I don't negotiate with separatist leaders, Ahsoka said flatly. Then we continue until one of us makes a fatal mistake. And these beings, Dooku gestured toward the village, become casualties in the crossfire. Is that what Jedi protect now? Villages they're willing to destroy to deny them to the enemy? Ahsoka's jaw clenched. You're trying to manipulate me. I'm stating facts. Look at them, Commander. Truly look. They're terrified. And we're the monsters making them so. Papa Smurf made a decision. He stepped forward into the space between the combatants, fully aware this could be the last action he ever took. Stop. Both of you, stop this. Ahsoka's eyes widened. Get back. You don't understand how dangerous. I understand perfectly, Papa Smurf interrupted. You're both powerful, both convinced of your righteousness, and both willing to destroy everything around you to defeat the other. Well, I won't let my village become your battlefield. If you want to talk, we'll talk. But the fighting ends now, or neither of you gets any answers. Silence fell over the forest. Dooku studied Papa Smurf with renewed interest. Courage. In one so small and apparently helpless. Remarkable. We're not helpless, Papa Smurf said quietly. We're simply peaceful. There's a difference. Ahsoka deactivated her lightsaber, though her hand remained near its hilt. You healed my pilot. That act of mercy is why I came looking for you, to thank you and understand what you are. But if Dooku's interested, that complicates things. Everything is complicated in war, Papa Smurf replied. Which is why we wanted no part of it. But you've both found us now. So here are my terms, you'll both stand down. You'll both listen. And if either of you threatens my people again, you'll discover that alchemy has defenses you've never encountered. Dooku laughed, genuine amusement in the sound. Threats from a 6-inch creature. This day grows more entertaining by the moment. But he deactivated his lightsaber. Very well, Papa Smurf. I'll indulge your courage. For now. Papa Smurf looked between the Jedi Commander and the Sith Lord, at two representatives of a galactic war that shouldn't concern his people, and felt the weight of impossible choices settling on his shoulders. Behind him, 156 Smurfs waited to see if their leader's gamble would save them or doom them all. The war had come to their doorstep. And whether they wanted it or not, the Smurfs were about to become players in a conflict that spanned the stars. The standoff lasted 3 heartbeats. Then Ahsoka slowly lowered her hand from her lightsaber, though suspicion remained etched across her features. Dooku merely smiled, as if this entire situation was a theatrical performance arranged for his amusement. Nisser, Papa Smurf called without taking his eyes off the two Force users. Bring refreshments. We're going to have a conversation. You're offering hospitality to a Sith Lord, Ahsoka said incredulously. Do you have any idea what he's done? The planets he's helped conquer, the beings he's killed. And you represent a republic that uses slave soldiers, Dooku countered smoothly, gesturing toward Ahsoka. Clone troopers, grown in vats and bred for obedience. Tell me, Commander, how is that morally superior to droid armies? The clones choose to serve, Ahsoka shot back. Do they? Fascinating. And what choice did they have at birth? Enough, Papa Smurf interrupted before the argument could escalate. You've both proven you can debate philosophy while threatening each other. But right now, I need to understand what my people have stumbled into. Nisser briefed us on the basics, Republic versus Separatists, Jedi versus Sith, but I need to hear it from you. Both of you. The Felucian returned carrying a woven tray with fermented fruit juice in carved wooden cups, the closest approximation to Smurf hospitality they could manage. Dooku accepted his cup with courtly grace, while Ahsoka hesitated before taking hers, clearly uncomfortable with the surreal civility of the situation. Papa Smurf gestured to a flat root that served as a natural council platform. Sit. Talk. And understand that I'm listening to both of you because I need the truth, not propaganda from either side. Dooku settled with the ease of nobility, arranging his robes with practiced precision. Ahsoka remained standing, positioned where she could watch both the Count and the village simultaneously. Smart, Papa Smurf noted. She didn't fully trust this arrangement. Very well, Dooku began, swirling the juice in his cup as if it were fine wine. A simplified history, the Galactic Republic has governed for 1,000 years, claiming to represent thousands of member worlds through democratic process. In reality, it's become bloated, corrupt, controlled by corporate interests and inner rim worlds that care nothing for the outer territories. The Jedi serve as the Republic's enforcers, claiming to keep peace while supporting a system that perpetuates inequality. That's a cynical interpretation, Ahsoka interjected. The Republic isn't perfect, but it's based on representation and law. The Separatists started this war by seceding illegally, building droid armies with corporate funding, and attacking Republic worlds. We seceded because the Republic wouldn't listen, Dooku cut in, his cultured tone sharpening. Worlds that paid taxes received nothing in return. Entire sectors ignored while Coruscant grew fat on their resources. We sought independence peacefully. The Republic responded with military force. Papa Smurf raised a hand, silencing them both. And the Jedi? Where do they fit? The Jedi Order, Ahsoka explained, her voice carrying both pride and something that might have been doubt, are Force-sensitive beings trained from childhood to serve the light side of the Force. We maintain peace, resolve conflicts, and protect the innocent. When the war began, the Council agreed to lead the Republic's clone army because they'd become so entangled with the Republic that they couldn't separate themselves, Dooku finished. I was a Jedi once, Papa Smurf. A master, actually. I left the Order because I saw what they'd become, warriors serving politicians, their mysticism reduced to military tactics. The Jedi have forgotten what they're supposed to be. And you became a Sith, Papa Smurf observed. Nisser mentioned them. Users of the dark side of the Force. The dark side is simply passion, emotion, and strength unbound by Jedi restrictions, Dooku said. The Force has no inherent morality, that's Jedi dogma. Power simply exists. How one uses it determines virtue or villainy. That's exactly what makes it dangerous, Ahsoka countered. The dark side corrupts. It feeds on anger, hatred, fear. Once you start down that path, it consumes you. You become something twisted, something that causes suffering to gain more power. Dooku's smile was cold. Spoken like a true indoctrinated Padawan. Tell me, Commander, when you strike down battle droids by the dozen, do you feel no satisfaction? No rush of victory? That's passion, child. The very thing the Jedi tell you to suppress. Papa Smurf watched this exchange with growing concern. These weren't just philosophical differences, they were fundamental worldviews at odds. And both sides were absolutely convinced of their righteousness. He'd seen similar convictions in Gargamel, who believed Smurfs were mere ingredients for his schemes, not people deserving of dignity. What do you want from us? Papa Smurf asked directly. Both of you came here for a reason beyond curiosity. Ahsoka spoke first. I came because you saved my pilot. That suggests you're good people caught in a situation you don't understand. The Republic can protect you, relocate you to a safe world away from the fighting. You'd be free to live peacefully. Under Republic observation, Dooku interrupted. Studied by their scientists, your alchemy analyzed and potentially weaponized. The Republic doesn't offer protection without expecting something in return. And what would the Separatists offer? Papa Smurf asked pointedly. True autonomy, Dooku replied without hesitation. Join the Confederacy, and you'd be recognized as an independent world, or in your case, an independent society. No Republic interference, no Jedi monitoring. You'd be free to practice your alchemy, live according to your customs, and remain neutral in the larger conflict if you choose. In exchange for what? Brainy called from behind the fortifications. Nothing's ever truly free, especially in war. Dooku's smile widened. Perceptive for one so small. In exchange, the Confederacy would expect occasional consultation. Your alchemical knowledge could benefit our medical research, create treatments for wounded soldiers, even unlock new applications we haven't considered. But it would be voluntary cooperation between equals, not servitude. He's lying, Ahsoka said flatly. The Separatists don't negotiate in good faith. They'll promise independence, then exploit you the moment you're useful. That's what they did to dozens of neutral worlds. And the Republic's offer is honest? Dooku challenged. They'll protect you the way they've protected the Wookiees, turning their homeworld into a military staging ground, conscripting their people into service. Protection that looks remarkably like occupation. Papa Smurf felt a headache building behind his eyes. You're both asking us to choose sides in a war we don't understand, for reasons that seem more complex than either of you are admitting. War is always complex, Ahsoka said quietly, and for a moment she sounded older than her years. But some things are simple. The Republic, despite its flaws, tries to do right by its citizens. The Separatists are led by corporations and Sith Lords who care only for power. That's not propaganda, it's observation. Observation filtered through Jedi training, Dooku countered. The Republic created this conflict through negligence and corruption. We simply responded. And as for Sith leadership, I make no apologies for using the Force without restrictions. Power in service of change is preferable to weakness disguised as wisdom. There, Papa Smurf said suddenly. That's the difference I needed to hear. Both Force users turned to him, surprised. Commander Ahsoka speaks of trying to do right, of flawed systems that can be improved, Papa Smurf continued. You, Count Dooku, speak of power and change through Force. One philosophy allows for growth and redemption. The other, he met Dooku's eyes without flinching. The other is what Gargamel always preached. Power justifies action. Ends justify means. And it always led to suffering. Dooku's expression darkened. You compare me to some provincial wizard from your primitive world. I've shaped galactic events, commanded armies, stood against the corrupt Jedi Order. And you're still trying to justify it, Papa Smurf interrupted. That's how I know you're dangerous. Not because you're powerful or because you wield this dark side, but because you've convinced yourself that your actions need no moral examination. You've traded one dogma for another. The temperature around Dooku seemed to drop. His hand moved toward his lightsaber. You test my patience, little creature. Count, Ahsoka warned, her own weapon ready. But Papa Smurf stood his ground. You asked what manner of beings we are. We're people who've spent centuries learning that survival means more than raw power. It means community, cooperation, and knowing when to compromise. You've forgotten all of that in pursuit of your grand vision. For a long moment, Dooku stared at Papa Smurf with an expression that mixed anger, surprise, and something that might have been grudging respect. Then he stood, brushing imaginary dust from his robes. I see I'm wasting my time here. You've already made your choice, seduced by Jedi platitudes about moral superiority. He looked directly at Ahsoka. Commander, I suggest you protect your new allies well. Because word of their existence will spread, through Republic channels and ours. And there are beings in this galaxy far less patient than I am. Is that a threat? Ahsoka's grip tightened on her lightsaber. A prediction, Dooku corrected. These Smurfs represent unknown potential, medical advances, alchemical applications, perhaps even Force-related phenomena we don't understand. Every faction in this war will want them. Some will be gentle about it. Others, he smiled without warmth. Others won't be. With that, Dooku extended his hand, and his personal comlink flew to his palm from where it had been clipped to his belt. He activated it with a touch. Shuttle, come to my coordinates. I'm departing. A massive ship descended through the canopy moments later, a sleek craft bristling with weapons. Clone troopers would have been detected immediately if they'd tried to follow Dooku through the forest, Papa Smurf realized. The Count had come alone because he'd known he could escape whenever he chose. As Dooku boarded his shuttle, he paused at the ramp and looked back. Papa Smurf, I genuinely hope you survive what's coming. It would be a shame if beings of your uniqueness were destroyed because they chose the wrong allies. The offer stands, should you reconsider. The Confederacy protects those wise enough to join us. The shuttle's ramp closed, and the craft ascended, disappearing into the jungle canopy with a roar of repulsor engines. Silence fell over the clearing. Finally, Ahsoka deactivated her lightsaber and turned to Papa Smurf. That was either the bravest or most foolish thing I've ever witnessed. Probably both. I told the truth, Papa Smurf said simply. It's all I know how to do. Ahsoka studied him for a long moment, then seemed to make a decision. Come with me. Not as prisoners, as guests. Master Plo Koon commands the garrison 3 kilometers from here. He's wise, patient, and fair. If anyone can figure out how to keep you safe without exploiting you, it's him. And, she hesitated. I think he'd like to meet beings who can stand up to a Sith Lord with nothing but courage and chemistry. And if we refuse? Hefty challenged from the fortifications. Then I'll post guards around this area to keep you safe and report your existence to the Council, Ahsoka said honestly. Either way, you can't stay hidden anymore. Dooku knows about you, which means the Separatists know. Your best chance is Republic protection. Papa Smurf looked at his people, at faces showing fear, determination, and trust in his leadership. They'd followed him through dimensional rifts and crash landings. They'd built a new village in an alien forest. And now they had to decide if they'd trust their fate to strangers who wielded powers they couldn't understand. We'll meet with Master Plo Koon, Papa Smurf decided. But we go as free people, not refugees begging for scraps. We'll offer our help where it aligns with our values. But we won't be weapons in your war, Commander. Not for you, not for anyone. Ahsoka nodded slowly. Fair enough. I'll make sure Master Plo understands. As the Smurfs began preparing for the journey to the Republic outpost, Papa Smurf couldn't shake Dooku's parting words. The Count had been right about one thing, word would spread. And in a galaxy at war, unique resources didn't stay neutral for long. They'd rejected the Separatists' offer. Now they had to see if the Republic's protection was genuine, or just another cage painted in prettier colors. The war had noticed them. And Papa Smurf suspected that was only the beginning of their troubles. The journey to the Republic outpost took 4 hours, moving at Smurf pace. Ahsoka had offered to carry them in containers, but Papa Smurf politely refused. Arriving like cargo wouldn't establish the independence he'd insisted upon. Instead, the Smurfs traveled on foot, following Ahsoka and the small clone trooper escort through the Felucian jungle. The troopers were identical in armor but distinct in personality. The squad leader, who introduced himself as Boost, couldn't stop asking questions about Smurf village structure. Another called Sinker remained professionally distant, clearly uncomfortable with the bizarre situation. The medic, Patch, walked close to Papa Smurf, already theorizing about the healing compound's chemical composition. The cellular regeneration rate was off the charts, Patch explained, his helmet amplifying his voice. Whatever you used didn't just accelerate natural healing, it optimized it. Scar tissue formation was minimal, neural pathways reconnected with perfect precision. It's like the compound knew exactly what needed fixing. Alchemy isn't just chemistry, Papa Smurf replied, watching where he stepped around a massive root. There's intent involved. The potion carries purpose, not just ingredients. It heals because that's what it's meant to do. Intent, Patch repeated skeptically. Sir, with respect, that sounds like the Force? Ahsoka interjected from ahead. It does, doesn't it? Except Papa Smurf isn't Force-sensitive. I can barely sense his presence in the Force at all, and what I do sense is, muted. Like he exists behind a veil. We're not from this galaxy, Papa Smurf reminded her. Perhaps whatever governs my alchemy simply operates on different principles than your Force. That should be impossible, Brainy muttered from nearby, struggling to keep pace while frantically scribbling observations in a journal he'd salvaged from the village. Energy and matter should follow consistent universal laws regardless of dimensional origin. Unless, he pushed his glasses up. Unless the fundamental constants of physics aren't actually constant across dimensional boundaries. Which would have staggering implications for Brainy, several Smurfs chorused wearily. Not now. They crested a ridge, and the Republic outpost came into view. It wasn't the massive military installation Papa Smurf had feared, more a fortified camp with prefabricated buildings, anti-aircraft emplacements, and landing pads for gunships. Clone troopers patrolled the perimeter, and in the center stood a command structure flying the Republic banner. Modest by military standards, Ahsoka explained. This is an observation post, not a full garrison. Master Plo uses it to monitor separatist movements and protect what remains of the civilian population. About 200 clones stationed here, plus support personnel. 200 soldiers. Papa Smurf did the math quickly. His entire village could be carried in one trooper's helmet. They were about to enter a facility where they'd be completely at everyone's mercy. Commander Tano returning with guests, Boost called ahead via comlink. Unusual guests. Very unusual. Requesting Master Plo meet us at the command center. The outpost's gates opened, revealing clone troopers staring with undisguised curiosity. Papa Smurf heard whispers as they passed. Are those the things that healed Hawk? They're so small. How do they even survive out there? Think they're sentient. They're wearing clothes and carrying tools, genius. Of course they're sentient. Ahsoka led them to the command center, where a figure waited that made Papa Smurf stop in his tracks. The being was tall and imposing, with reddish-brown skin and a face concealed behind a breathing mask that gave him an almost mechanical appearance. He wore Jedi robes and carried himself with quiet authority that reminded Papa Smurf of ancient trees, rooted, patient, unmovable. Master Plo Koon, Ahsoka said respectfully. May I introduce Papa Smurf, leader of the Smurfs. They're the ones who healed Hawk. Plo Koon descended to one knee, bringing himself closer to the Smurf's level, a gesture of respect Papa Smurf appreciated. When he spoke, his voice was deep and filtered through his mask, but warm with genuine curiosity. Welcome to our outpost. Commander Tano's report was remarkable. She mentioned you encountered Count Dooku. He found us first, Papa Smurf corrected. And made an offer we declined. The commander suggested we'd be safer under Republic protection. Protection, yes. But also understanding. Plo Koon tilted his head, studying them. I sense very little of you in the Force. It's as if you exist in a shadow, present but somehow separate from the galaxy's natural energy. Fascinating. And unsettling, in a way. The Force connects all living things, yet you seem adjacent to it. We're not from this galaxy, Papa Smurf explained. An alchemical accident brought us here. We didn't choose this, and we don't understand your war. We simply want to survive and, if possible, find a way home. Home, Plo Koon repeated thoughtfully. To another galaxy entirely. The implications. He stood, gesturing toward the command center. Please, come inside. We have much to discuss, and I suspect you have many questions about the situation you found yourselves in. The command center's interior had been modified with hastily constructed platforms at various heights, allowing the Smurfs to participate in the meeting without being relegated to floor level. Someone, probably Ahsoka, had thought ahead. The main holodeck displayed a tactical map of Felucia, showing Republic positions in blue, Separatist positions in red, and contested territories in yellow. The moon was drowning in red. We're losing Felucia, Plo Koon said without preamble, reading Papa Smurf's expression. The Separatists commit more resources here every week. Their droid factories operate continuously, producing fresh armies while our clone reinforcements are stretched thin across 100 battlefronts. Within a month, perhaps 2, we'll be forced to evacuate. Then why stay at all? Smurfette asked. If you're going to lose anyway. Because every day we hold delays Separatist advances elsewhere, Ahsoka explained. Every droid army pinned down here is one not attacking Kashyyyk or Ryloth. We're buying time for evacuation of civilian populations, for defensive preparations on more strategically vital worlds. You're sacrificing this place, Hefty said bluntly. Using it as bait. We're doing what's necessary, Plo Koon corrected gently. War requires difficult choices. But we ensure civilians are evacuated first. Those who remain do so by choice, like Nisser, who refused to leave the forests. Papa Smurf studied the holodeble, noting troop concentrations and supply lines. Count Dooku said word of our existence would spread. He implied other factions might come looking for us. He wasn't wrong, Plo Koon admitted. The healing compound you created has already generated significant interest. Republic Medical Command wants samples for analysis. The Senate Science Council has inquired about your technology level. And, he hesitated. The Jedi Council on Coruscant wishes to speak with you via holocommunication. The Jedi Council, Brainy breathed. The supreme authority of Force users across the galaxy wants to speak with us. They're curious about beings who exist outside the Force's normal influence, Ahsoka said. And concerned. The Force guides Jedi decision-making, helps us sense danger and deception. But with you, that guidance is muted. It makes some council members uncomfortable. They fear us, Papa Smurf translated. Fear what they can't sense or predict. Some do, Plo Koon acknowledged. Others are simply cautious. The Council has protected the galaxy for millennia by understanding threats before they fully manifest. You represent an unknown variable in a war that's already unpredictable. Papa Smurf felt a chill. This was exactly what he'd feared, becoming a curiosity, then a concern, then a threat to be neutralized. And what do you think, Master Plo? Are we dangerous? The Jedi Master was silent for a long moment, his masked face unreadable. Then, I think your people trying to survive in circumstances beyond your control. I think you showed remarkable courage standing up to Count Dooku, and wisdom in recognizing the Separatists' offer for the trap it was. I think, he paused. I think the Force brought you here for a reason, even if you exist outside its direct touch. And I think dismissing you as primitives or threats would be a grave mistake. But you're not the whole council, Papa Smurf said. No. I'm not. A clone trooper entered, saluting crisply. Master Plo, the holocommunication link to Coruscant is ready. The council awaits. Plo Koon looked at Papa Smurf. They'll want to question you directly. Some may seem harsh or suspicious, don't take it personally. They're trying to understand beings unlike any they've encountered. Answer honestly, show them who you are, and trust that wisdom will prevail. And if it doesn't? Hefty challenged. If they decide we're too dangerous or too useful, then I'll advocate for you, Plo Koon said simply. As will Commander Tano. You're under my protection now. The Council respects that, even when they disagree with Field Commander's assessments. Papa Smurf gathered his people with a look. They formed a small cluster on the platform, 157 Smurfs facing the unknown judgment of beings who commanded armies and shaped galactic destiny. He thought of all they'd survived, Gargamel's schemes, natural disasters, the dimensional breach itself. They'd endured through unity and wisdom. We're ready, Papa Smurf said. The holodable's projection shifted, and suddenly Papa Smurf was looking at 12 figures seated in a circle, the Jedi Council. Humans, near humans, and utterly alien beings, all wearing variations of Jedi robes, all radiating an authority that made even the holographic projection feel imposing. A small, green-skinned being with long pointed ears spoke first, his voice gravelly with age. Papa Smurf, you are called. Beings of mystery you are. Explain yourselves, you will. And so, under the scrutiny of the galaxy's most powerful Force users, Papa Smurf began to tell their story. He spoke of their village, of the alchemical accident, of their displacement to a galaxy at war. He answered questions about their abilities, their intentions, their nature. Some council members listened with open curiosity. Others with thinly veiled suspicion. And through it all, Papa Smurf felt the weight of a galaxy's attention pressing down on his small shoulders, judging whether the Smurfs would be allowed to exist peacefully, or whether they'd become just another resource to be exploited in an endless war. The meeting lasted 2 hours. And when it finally ended, Papa Smurf wasn't sure if they'd won the council's trust or simply delayed their judgment. But they were still free. For now, that would have to be enough. The Jedi Council's decision came 3 days later, delivered via encrypted holocommunication to Master Plo Koon. Papa Smurf and his inner circle, Hefty, Brainy, Smurfette, and Handy, gathered in the command center to hear the verdict that would determine their future. Plo Koon activated the message, and the hologram of Master Yoda appeared, his ancient face carved with the weight of millennia. Considered your situation, we have, Yoda's image began. Unusual it is, unprecedented even. Beings from beyond our galaxy, touched not by the Force in ways we understand. Concern this raises, yes. But threat you are not, determined we have. Papa Smurf felt tension drain from his shoulders. Beside him, Smurfette let out a breath she'd been holding. However, Yoda continued, and Papa Smurf's relief evaporated, remain on Felucia you cannot. Contested territory it is, dangerous for beings so vulnerable. Relocate you we must, to a Republic sanctuary world. Protected you will be, studied you will not be. Our word on this, you have. Studied you will not be, Brainy repeated quietly. Notice how he felt the need to say that explicitly. Which means someone on the council argued for exactly that. Grateful we are, Yoda's hologram went on, for healing Commander Tano's pilot. Compassion you showed, when hiding would have been safer. Character this reveals. Trust you, we do. But trust alone protects not. Action required is. The hologram flickered out. Plo Koon turned to face the Smurfs, his masked face unreadable. The council's decision is final. Within the week, a transport will arrive to evacuate you to Alderaan, a core world, peaceful, with vast forests where you could rebuild your village in safety. Rebuild far from the war, Papa Smurf said slowly. Far from any strategic value. Where we'd be forgotten and irrelevant. Where you'd be safe, Ahsoka corrected, though her tone suggested she understood his objection. Alderaan is beautiful, mountains, forests, no military conflicts. You could live there for generations without ever seeing a battle droid or clone trooper. It sounds like paradise, Smurfette admitted. After everything we've been through, actual peace would be. An explosion cut her off. The command center shook, ceiling dust raining down. Alarms shrieked throughout the outpost. Clone troopers rushed to battle stations, and the holodeble automatically switched to tactical display, showing a devastating picture, red markers surrounding the outpost on 3 sides, advancing rapidly. Separatist assault, Boost reported, rushing in with his helmet on. 3 droid battalions, supported by spider droids and AATs. They're hitting us from the north, east, and south simultaneously. West Corridor is our only escape route. Estimated time until they breach the perimeter. Plo Koon asked, already moving toward the exit. 18 minutes, maybe less. They're not probing, this is a full commitment. They want this outpost eliminated. Ahsoka ignited her lightsabers, 2 blades, Papa Smurf noted, 1 blue and 1 green. This is because of us, isn't it? Dooku told the Separatists about the Smurfs. They're attacking to capture them before the Republic can evacuate them. Likely, Plo Koon agreed. Which means our priority is getting them out safely. Boost, prepare LAAT Gamma 7 for immediate evac. Load the Smurfs first, then wounded, then, no, Papa Smurf's voice was quiet but firm. Everyone turned to stare at him. No, he repeated. You won't sacrifice your soldiers to save us. We didn't come to this galaxy to cause more death. Papa Smurf, Plo Koon said gently, this isn't your choice. My duty is protecting innocent. We're not innocent, Papa Smurf interrupted. Not anymore. The moment I healed that pilot, the moment we revealed ourselves, we became part of this war. And I won't let good people die for us without contributing something in return. What could you possibly contribute? Boost asked, not unkindly. You're 6 inches tall facing armies of battle droids. This isn't about courage, it's about survival. Papa Smurf looked at Handy. The early warning systems you built around our village. Could you replicate them here, quickly? Handy's eyes widened. Maybe. The probe droid parts we salvaged have sophisticated sensors. If I could tap into the outpost's power grid, create a network that detects droid approach vectors before they're in visual range, he trailed off, thinking furiously. It wouldn't stop them, but it could give you advance warning. Seconds, maybe minutes. Enough to reposition defenses, set up ambush points. Better than nothing, Ahsoka said. But that still doesn't. And I have potions, Papa Smurf added. Volatile compounds that could be weaponized. Adhesive mixtures that harden on contact, spray them on droid joints and they seize up. Caustic vapors that corrode metal but are harmless to organic tissue. Smoke bombs that block visual and electronic sensors simultaneously. Plo Koon studied Papa Smurf with new intensity. You're offering to help us fight. To become combatants in a war you wanted no part of. I'm offering to help people who are dying to protect us, Papa Smurf corrected. There's a difference. We won't kill, that's not who we are. But we can provide tools, intelligence, support. Things only beings our size could accomplish. Another explosion rocked the outpost, closer now. Through the command center's viewport, Papa Smurf saw laser fire streaking through the jungle, the distinctive sound of battle droids advancing. Roger, Roger. Master Plo, Boost urged, we need a decision. Now. The Jedi Master was silent for 3 long seconds. Then, deploy them. Handy coordinates with our tech specialists on the sensor network. Papa Smurf provides whatever alchemical support he can. But the moment the situation becomes untenable, all Smurfs evacuate immediately. No arguments, no heroic last stands. Understood? Understood, Papa Smurf agreed. Then let's see what a village of 6-inch alchemists can do against a droid army. The next 15 minutes were chaos. Handy and a team of Smurfs worked with clone engineers, stringing together a makeshift sensor network using salvaged components and Handy's ingenious modifications. Meanwhile, Papa Smurf set up a mobile laboratory in a protected bunker, surrounded by Smurfs who trained in potion-making under his guidance. Greedy, Papa Smurf called, I need the adhesive base, the one we use for fixing cracked walls. Mix it with Felucian sap moss, 3 parts adhesive to 1 part moss. That creates a foam that hardens in seconds. On it. Greedy rushed to comply, his usual cooking skills translating surprisingly well to alchemical preparation. Vanity, stop admiring yourself and help Brainy calculate the ratios for the caustic vapor. We need something that melts durasteel but won't harm clone armor's protective coating. I wasn't admiring myself, Vanity protested, though he was clearly holding his mirror. I was checking for chemical burns. Safety first. Despite the absurdity of the situation, Smurfs preparing for war in a bunker while droid armies advanced, Papa Smurf felt a strange pride. His people were adapting, contributing, refusing to be helpless victims. This was who they'd always been, survivors who found ways to matter, regardless of size. Sensor network is online. Handy's voice crackled through the command center's comm system. Master Plo, you should be seeing enhanced tactical data now. The holodeable flickered, and suddenly the display was far more detailed. Individual droid units appeared as distinct markers, their approach vectors predicted with startling accuracy. Plo Koon studied it with approval. Excellent work. Commander Tano, redirect 2nd Platoon to coordinates 773. The droids are concentrating there, we can catch them in a crossfire. Yes, Master. Ahsoka rushed out, her lightsabers ready. Papa Smurf worked frantically, filling small capsules with various compounds. Each one was labeled in Smurf script: adhesive foam, caustic vapor, smoke, flash powder. They were tiny by human standards, but properly deployed by Smurfs who could get into positions no clone trooper could reach. First batch ready, Papa Smurf announced. Hefty, distribute these to the volunteers. Remember the training, you're not warriors. You're saboteurs. Get in, deploy, get out. No direct engagement with droids. Got it, Papa Smurf. Hefty gathered the capsules, distributing them to 30 Smurfs who'd volunteered for the most dangerous work, crawling through the outpost's ventilation systems, accessing positions behind droid lines, planting alchemical surprises where they'd do maximum damage. The first droid wave hit the northern perimeter 8 minutes later. Papa Smurf watched on the holotable as blue markers representing clone positions engaged red markers representing battle droids. The fighting was brutal, immediate. But then something changed. A cluster of droid markers suddenly stopped advancing, their movements becoming erratic. What's happening to the droids in Sector 4? Boost asked from his position. Smurf Team Alpha deployed adhesive foam in their joint servos, Handy reported with unmistakable pride. They're seizing up, can't coordinate movements. Easy targets now. Clone troopers capitalized immediately, focusing fire on the disabled droids. An entire squad was eliminated in seconds. It's working, Plo Koon said, surprise evident even through his mask. Deploy more teams. Focus on high-value targets, spider droids, AATs, anything that threatens our heavy weapons emplacements. The Smurfs scattered like blue ghosts through the outpost, too small and fast for droid targeting systems to track effectively. They crawled through spaces no human could access, emerged in unexpected positions, deployed their alchemical surprises, and vanished before the droids could respond. In Sector 7, Brainy led a team that sprayed caustic vapor on an AAT tank's treads. The metal corroded within seconds, and the tank ground to a halt, blocking a narrow passage and creating a choke point the clones exploited ruthlessly. In Sector 9, Smurfette's team deployed smoke bombs that filled an entire clearing with thick, sensor-blocking fog. The droids advanced blindly, walking straight into clone ambush positions. But the Separatists weren't stupid. They adapted. Flamethrower droids began clearing areas where Smurfs might hide. Dwarf spider droids, small enough to access the same spaces Smurfs used, started hunting them specifically. Papa Smurf. Clumsy's panicked voice came through the comm. Team Delta is pinned down in ventilation shaft 3. Spider droids coming from both directions. Hefty, respond. Papa Smurf ordered. Already moving. Hefty led a rescue team through alternate passages, emerging behind the spider droids and deploying flash powder capsules directly into their sensor arrays. The droids' photoreceptors overloaded, and they spun in confused circles, firing randomly. Hefty's team extracted the trapped Smurfs and disappeared before the droids recovered. The battle raged for 2 hours. 2 hours of organized chaos, of clone troopers and Smurfs working together in ways neither had imagined possible. The Separatists threw wave after wave of droids at the outpost, but the combination of enhanced sensors, clone firepower, and Smurf sabotage created a defensive synergy that held against impossible odds. Papa Smurf watched it all from the command center, coordinating Smurf teams, preparing new batches of compounds, his heart in his throat every time a team reported contact with the enemy. This wasn't what Smurfs were meant to do. They were builders, farmers, craftspeople. Not warriors. But they were also survivors. And sometimes survival meant fighting, even when everything in your nature screamed to run. Separatist forces withdrawing. Boost announced suddenly. They're pulling back across all sectors. The holotable confirmed it, red markers retreating, falling back into the jungle. The outpost had held. Barely, at terrible cost, but it had held. Cheering erupted among the clone troopers. Plo Koon allowed himself a moment of visible relief. And in the command center, Papa Smurf slumped against the holodable's edge, exhausted beyond measure. "Casualty report," he asked quietly. 17 clones killed, 34 wounded, Boost reported, his voice subdued. "Without your people's help, it would have been triple that. Maybe total loss." "And the Smurfs?" Clumsy broke his arm when a spider droid nearly stepped on him. Grouchy has some burns from getting too close to a flamethrower droid. Otherwise, minor injuries. Incredible luck, considering what they were doing. Not luck, Papa Smurf thought. Training, discipline, and the advantage of being too small for droids to consider a real threat. Until it was too late. Ahsoka entered the command center, her lightsabers deactivated but still clipped to her belt. Her robes were scorched, her face smudged with soot, but she was grinning. "Papa Smurf, that was. I don't even have words. You turned the tide. Literally. Without your people, we'd have been overrun. We did what we had to," Papa Smurf said simply. "People were dying to protect us. We couldn't just hide and let that happen." Plo Koon approached, lowering himself to one knee again to meet Papa Smurf's eyes. "You and your people showed courage today that many beings 3 times your size lack. You have my deepest respect. And my gratitude. Does this change anything?" Brainy asked from nearby, his journal filled with tactical notes. "The Council's decision, the evacuation to Alderaan?" "No," Plo Koon said. "You're still evacuating. Today proved something important, you're capable of contributing to this war. Which means every faction will want you even more desperately now. The Separatists won't stop at one assault. They'll come again, with more forces, specifically to capture or eliminate you. Then we're a liability," Papa Smurf said quietly. "Your people worth protecting," Plo Koon corrected. "And people who've earned the right to live peacefully. Alderaan remains the safest option. Go there. Rebuild. And when this war finally ends, as all wars must, perhaps you'll find a way home to your own galaxy." Papa Smurf looked at his people, gathered now in the command center, exhausted but alive. They'd fought their first battle in a war that spanned the stars. And they'd survived. But at what cost to their souls? They were Smurfs, peaceful by nature, communal by philosophy. How many more battles could they fight before they became something else? Something harder, colder, shaped by war instead of wisdom. "We'll go to Alderaan," Papa Smurf agreed. "But we go knowing what we're capable of. And if the galaxy needs us again, truly needs us, not just wants to exploit us, we'll answer. That's the price of survival here. That's what it means to matter in a galaxy at war." The transport arrived 4 days later, a Republic frigate named the Resolute Destiny, equipped for civilian evacuation. Papa Smurf stood at the outpost's landing pad watching the massive vessel descend, its hull scarred from countless battles, its engines humming with power that could cross star systems in days. "Hard to believe something that big can fly," Handy muttered, his engineers eye-cataloging the ship's design. "The repulsor technology alone must be scary," Clumsy interrupted. "It's scary. We're really leaving Felucia." They were leaving behind more than just Felucia. In the 4 days since the battle, the Smurfs had become something of a legend among the clone troopers. Stories spread, exaggerated, certainly, but rooted in truth, about tiny blue beings who'd sabotaged an entire droid army. Troopers who'd fought alongside them treated the Smurfs with respect bordering on reverence. But respect came with complications. "Papa Smurf." A clone medic jogged over, carrying a sealed container. "Before you go, could you spare a few more samples of that healing compound? We've been treating wounded with it, and the results are incredible. Injuries that would have taken weeks to heal are recovering in days." It was the 7th such request that morning. Papa Smurf had prepared what he could, small vials of healing elixir, carefully measured and labeled with usage instructions. But each request felt like a step down a dangerous path. Today it was healing compounds. Tomorrow, what? Combat stimulants? Poisons? Where did helping end and weaponization begin? This is the last batch I can provide before we leave, Papa Smurf said, handing over the vial. Use it wisely. And remember, alchemy requires proper intent. If someone uses these potions with malice rather than healing in their heart, the results could be unpredictable. The medic nodded seriously, treating the vial like precious cargo. Understood, sir. And thank you. You've saved lives, more than you probably realize. As the medic departed, Brainy approached with a datapad he'd been studying obsessively. Papa Smurf, I've been analyzing the Republic's technology based on what I've observed here. Their computational systems are extraordinarily advanced, but there are inefficiencies in their power distribution networks that could be optimized with relatively simple modifications. If we could access their engineering databases during the voyage to Alderaan. No, Brainy. But the potential applications. No, Papa Smurf's tone was firm. We help when lives are at stake, when our intervention prevents immediate suffering. We don't start tinkering with Republic military technology. That crosses a line we can't uncross. Brainy deflated slightly but nodded. I understand. It's just, we have knowledge that could make a difference. Feels wrong to withhold it. It feels wrong because you're a good person who wants to help, Papa Smurf said gently. But we're not military scientists. We're not weapons developers. We're Smurfs. And the moment we forget that, we become tools for someone else's war. Plo Koon approached, his robes stirring in the wind generated by the frigate's landing thrusters. The ship is ready. Captain Yevra has prepared accommodations for your people, a cargo bay that's been modified with platforms, supplies, and environmental controls. You'll be comfortable during the journey. How long to Alderaan? Smurfette asked, holding baby Smurf's hand. 5 days in hyperspace, assuming no separatist interdictions. The Resolute Destiny will be escorted by 2 corvettes for the first half of the journey, then you'll proceed under stealth protocols. Alderaan's location is well protected, deep in the core worlds, far from contested space. And when we arrive? Papa Smurf asked. What exactly awaits us? A sanctuary, Plo Koon assured him. Senator Bail Organa has personally arranged for land in Alderaan's northern forests, pristine wilderness, away from cities, where you can rebuild your village in peace. The Republic will provide initial supplies and construction assistance, then leave you alone. You'll have autonomy, protection, and privacy. Sounds too good to be true, Hefty said suspiciously. Senator Organa is one of the few politicians in the Republic who still remembers what democracy means, Ahsoka added, joining them. She'd insisted on escorting the Smurfs personally to Alderaan. If he says you'll be left alone, you will be. He's not like the others, he actually keeps his promises. Papa Smurf wanted to believe her. But he'd spent 4 days watching Republic efficiency turn his people's contributions into military assets. The healing compounds were already being reverse-engineered in Republic labs. Handy's sensor network design had been copied and submitted to military engineering for potential fleet-wide implementation. Even their small size was being discussed as a template for developing infiltration units. They'd helped save an outpost. In return, they were being studied, catalogued, and filed away as a resource to potentially exploit later. It's time, Plo Koon said quietly. The longer we delay, the greater the risk that Separatist intelligence detects the evacuation. The Smurfs gathered their meager belongings, whatever had survived the dimensional breach and subsequent relocation. As they boarded the transport shuttle that would carry them to the frigate, Papa Smurf looked back at the Felucian jungle one last time. They'd spent less than 2 weeks on this moon, but it had changed them irrevocably. They'd arrived as peaceful villagers. They were leaving as refugees who'd fought in a battle, who'd contributed to a war machine, who'd taken the first steps down a path they'd never wanted to walk. The shuttle's interior was cavernous from a Smurf perspective. Clone troopers helped them secure their belongings, speaking in hushed, respectful tones. One young trooper, his armor marked with rookie insignia, knelt beside Papa Smurf. "Sir, I wanted to thank you personally. My brother was in the northern perimeter when the droids hit. He says one of your people saved his life, deployed some kind of foam that jammed up 3 spider droids that had him pinned. My brother's name is Echo. Your Smurf's name was Hefty." Papa Smurf felt a lump in his throat. "Hefty's right over there. You can thank him yourself." The trooper did, approaching Hefty with obvious emotion. They spoke briefly, the massive armored soldier and the tiny blue figure, and Papa Smurf saw something pass between them, recognition that life was precious, regardless of size or origin. The shuttle lifted off, ascending toward the frigate waiting in orbit. Through the viewport, Papa Smurf watched Felucia shrink below them, the endless jungle, the Republic outpost now just a speck, the contested territories where war raged on, indifferent to the small beings who'd briefly touched it. The frigate's docking bay was organized chaos, ships coming and going, cargo being loaded, clone troopers and Navy personnel moving with military precision. The Smurfs were guided to their modified cargo bay, which had been transformed into something resembling habitable space. Platforms connected by ramps, food storage, water supplies, even small partitions for privacy. "It's not home," Smurfette said sadly, looking around. "But it's better than I expected." "Home is wherever we're together," Papa Smurf reminded her. "We'll make it work. We always do." Captain Yevra, a stern-faced human woman with gray hair and admiral's insignia, met them personally. "Papa Smurf, your people are welcome aboard my ship. My crew has been briefed to treat you with respect and provide whatever assistance you need. We'll reach Alderaan in 5 days. Try to rest, you've been through an ordeal." "Thank you, Captain. We appreciate your hospitality." As Yevra departed, Ahsoka settled onto a platform, her legs dangling over the edge. 5 days in hyperspace. Good time to decompress, process everything that's happened. "I know it's been overwhelming." "That's an understatement," Brainy muttered, still scribbling in his journal. "We've traveled between dimensions, crashed on an alien moon, met Jedi and Sith, fought in a battle against robot armies, and now we're flying through space faster than light. My entire understanding of physics has been shattered and rebuilt 3 times. How are you holding up?" Ahsoka asked Papa Smurf directly. "Really, I mean." Not the brave leader answer, the honest one. Papa Smurf considered the question. "I'm tired. Scared. Uncertain about everything. We saved lives at that outpost, but we also took our first steps toward becoming something we never wanted to be. Warriors. Weapons. Resources in a galactic conflict that has nothing to do with us. You're not weapons," Ahsoka said firmly. "You're people who chose to help when help was needed. That's different. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, the line seems very thin." Before Ahsoka could respond, the ship shuddered. Not the gentle vibration of engines, but a violent lurch that sent unsecured objects flying. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Captain Yevra's voice crackled over the intercom. "All hands, battle stations. We've been pulled from hyperspace by a separatist interdiction field. Multiple enemy contacts inbound." Papa Smurf's heart sank as he rushed to the nearest viewport. There, emerging from the darkness of space, were ships bearing the separatist insignia, sleek frigates and swarms of vulture droids, their weapons already glowing with charged energy. "They knew," Hefty growled. "They knew we'd be on this ship." "Dooku," Papa Smurf breathed. "He told them to watch for our evacuation. This isn't random, they're hunting us specifically." The frigate's weapons opened fire, turbolaser blasts streaking across the void. The escort corvettes maneuvered to intercept the attacking ships. But Papa Smurf could see they were outnumbered. The Separatists had committed serious forces to this ambush. Ahsoka ignited her lightsabers despite being inside a spaceship, her face set with grim determination. "Get your people to the escape pods. If the ship is breached." "We're not evacuating into space," Papa Smurf interrupted. "We'd never survive in escape pods designed for humans. We're 6 inches tall, the safety restraints alone would crush us." Then what? Another impact rocked the ship. Somewhere distant, Papa Smurf heard the scream of tearing metal. The lights flickered, emergency illumination casting everything in red. They were trapped on a ship under attack, hunted by an enemy that wouldn't stop until the Smurfs were captured or dead. And there was nowhere to run, no way to hide, no clever Smurf solution that could save them from the cold mathematics of space combat. For the first time since arriving in this galaxy, Papa Smurf felt true despair. They'd survived so much, adapted to so many impossible situations. But how could 157 tiny beings survive when star-spanning powers wanted them badly enough to wage battles in the void itself? "Papa Smurf," Brainy said quietly, pointing at his data pad. "I'm picking up something on the ship's sensors. Another vessel, approaching at high speed. Large. Very large. And it's not broadcasting any identification codes." "Separatist reinforcements?" Smurfette asked fearfully. "I don't think so. The energy signature is different. And the Separatist ships they're pulling back. Retreating." Through the viewport, Papa Smurf watched the impossible, the attacking Separatist forces breaking off their assault, their ships scattering like frightened insects before a predator. And then he saw why. Emerging from the darkness was a vessel that dwarfed everything else in the sector, a massive wedge-shaped craft bristling with weapons, its hull painted in Republic colors but bearing markings Papa Smurf didn't recognize. This wasn't a standard military vessel. This was something else entirely. "It's a Venator-class star destroyer," Ahsoka breathed, awe in her voice. "One of the Republic's capital ships. But what's it doing here? Our route was supposed to be secret." Captain Yevra's voice returned over the intercom, now tinged with relief. "All hands, stand down from battle stations. We're being hailed by the Negotiator, flagship of General Obi-Wan Kenobi. They've driven off the Separatist forces and are offering escort to Alderaan." "Kenobi," Ahsoka repeated, a smile crossing her face. "Master Obi-Wan is here. We're safe." But Papa Smurf wasn't smiling. Because he understood what this meant. A Jedi General's flagship didn't just happen to be in this sector. It had been sent. Deliberately. Which meant the Republic, or at least powerful figures within it, had anticipated this attack. Which meant they'd been watching. Waiting. And now one of the most famous Jedi in the galaxy was personally escorting the Smurfs to their sanctuary. They weren't refugees being relocated. They were valuable assets being secured. And Papa Smurf suspected their troubles were only just beginning. The Negotiator dwarfed the Resolute Destiny the way a mountain dwarfed a pebble. As the frigate docked within the Star Destroyer's massive hangar bay, Papa Smurf watched through viewports as clone troopers in pristine armor formed orderly ranks, starfighters sat in perfect rows, and the entire operation hummed with military efficiency that made the Felucia outpost look like a frontier camp. "This is excessive," Brainy muttered, adjusting his glasses nervously. "A capital ship with a full battle group just to escort us. Either we're far more valuable than they've admitted, or something else is happening." Papa Smurf suspected both. The welcoming committee waited at the bottom of the boarding ramp, dozens of clone officers, Navy personnel in crisp uniforms, and at the center, 3 figures who radiated authority. Papa Smurf recognized Ahsoka's description immediately, the Jedi General Obi-Wan Kenobi, distinguished by his auburn hair and neatly trimmed beard, wearing robes that somehow looked both casual and commanding. Beside him stood another Jedi, taller and younger, with a mechanical right hand and a scar across one eye that spoke of hard-won battles. The third figure made Papa Smurf's breath catch. It was human, male, wearing dark robes and a hood that concealed most of his features. But something about his presence felt wrong, a cold weight in the air, a shadow that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. Papa Smurf's alchemical senses screamed warnings. Master Obi-Wan. Ahsoka descended the ramp quickly, bowing respectfully. And Anakin. I didn't expect. Commander Tano, Obi-Wan interrupted smoothly, his voice carrying refined civility. It's good to see you safe. When we received intelligence about a potential separatist ambush on this route, we diverted immediately. Fortunate timing, it seems. Received intelligence, Papa Smurf repeated quietly to himself. Not predicted or suspected. Someone had known about the attack in advance. Anakin Skywalker, the younger Jedi, studied the Smurfs with undisguised curiosity. So these are the beings everyone's talking about. The ones who can do things with chemistry that our best scientists can't explain. They're smaller than I expected. We prefer efficient size, Hefty said defensively, crossing his arms. Anakin's scarred face broke into a genuine smile. I like them already. But it was the hooded figure who stepped forward next, and Papa Smurf felt every Smurf behind him tense instinctively. The figure pulled back his hood, revealing an elderly human face, grandfatherly and kind, with twinkling eyes that seemed to radiate benevolence. Papa Smurf, the man said, his voice warm and soothing. I am Chancellor Palpatine, leader of the Galactic Republic. I've traveled all this way specifically to meet you and your remarkable people. Forgive the dramatic circumstances, I'm afraid your presence has attracted more attention than anyone anticipated. Papa Smurf felt his skin crawl despite the Chancellor's pleasant demeanor. Something about this being was fundamentally wrong, like a perfectly preserved fruit that was rotten at its core. He forced himself to maintain composure. Chancellor. I'm honored, though I confess surprised. Surely the leader of trillions has more pressing concerns than 157 displaced refugees. Ah, but you're not merely refugees, Palpatine said, descending to one knee with remarkable grace for someone his apparent age. You represent something unprecedented, beings from beyond our galaxy, wielding powers that exist outside the Force's framework. The scientific implications alone are staggering. But more importantly, his eyes locked with Papa Smurf's, and for just a moment, Papa Smurf glimpsed something beneath the kindly mask, something ancient, predatory, and utterly ruthless. You represent hope. In dark times, sometimes the smallest beings cast the longest shadows. The Chancellor insisted on meeting you personally, Obi-Wan explained, though something in his tone suggested discomfort. He's taken a particular interest in your situation. In fact, he's proposed relocating you not to Alderaan, but to a facility on Coruscant where... No, Papa Smurf's voice was quiet but absolute. Silence fell across the hangar bay. Clone troopers shifted uncomfortably. Anakin's eyebrows rose. And Chancellor Palpatine's smile never wavered, which somehow made it more menacing. No. Palpatine repeated gently. I'm afraid I don't understand. Coruscant offers far superior protection, resources, and it's the capital of a galactic government at war, Papa Smurf interrupted. Where we'd be at the center of political intrigue, military planning, and constant observation. The Jedi Council promised us sanctuary on Alderaan, a peaceful world, forested, away from the conflict. That's what we were promised, and that's what we expect the Republic to honor. Palpatine's expression remained benevolent, but Papa Smurf saw Obi-Wan and Anakin exchange quick glances. Even Ahsoka looked uncomfortable, sensing the sudden tension. Chancellor, Obi-Wan said diplomatically, perhaps Papa Smurf has a point. The Smurfs have been through considerable trauma. Alderaan's tranquility might be more suitable for... Of course, Palpatine agreed smoothly, rising to his feet. I merely thought to offer additional options. Senator Organa's arrangements on Alderaan are excellent, I'm sure. Though, he paused, as if considering his words carefully. I wonder if you truly understand the forces now interested in you, Papa Smurf. Count Dooku wants you captured or eliminated. Various criminal organizations have heard rumors and would pay fortunes for beings with your unique abilities. Even within the Republic, there are factions that view you as a resource to be controlled rather than people to be protected. Is that a threat, Chancellor? Papa Smurf asked quietly. A warning, Palpatine corrected. Alderaan is peaceful, yes. But it's also vulnerable. Senator Organa commands no military forces. If someone decided to take you by force, who would stop them? The Republic would, Obi-Wan said firmly. We've guaranteed their protection. And the Republic's guarantees are only as strong as its ability to enforce them, Palpatine replied. Still, if Papa Smurf prefers Alderaan, then Alderaan it shall be. I wouldn't dream of overruling the Jedi Council's arrangements. His smile widened slightly. Though I do hope you'll accept a small gift, a security detail. 24 clone troopers, specially trained in protection services, to ensure your safety on Alderaan. Consider it, insurance. Papa Smurf understood immediately. Not protection, surveillance. 24 pairs of eyes reporting back to Coruscant, monitoring the Smurfs' activities, ensuring the Republic maintained control over its newest asset. But refusing would raise more suspicions than accepting. So Papa Smurf nodded. That's generous, Chancellor. We accept your gift. Excellent. Palpatine's warmth returned full force. Now, I'm sure you're all exhausted. Please, make use of the negotiators' facilities during the journey to Alderaan. General Kenobi will ensure you're comfortable. As the Chancellor departed with his entourage, Papa Smurf finally allowed himself to breathe. Brainy immediately sidled close, whispering urgently, "Did you feel that? The way the temperature dropped when he looked at you. The way every instinct screamed to run." I felt it, Papa Smurf confirmed. That man is dangerous. More dangerous than Dooku, in some ways. Dooku is honest about being a threat. Palpatine hides behind kindness, which makes him far more insidious. I don't trust him either, Ahsoka admitted quietly, joining them. And I'm not the only Jedi who feels that way. But he's the Supreme Chancellor, elected by the Senate, granted emergency powers to prosecute the war. We serve the Republic, which means we serve him, whether we like it or not. Even when you know he's manipulating everyone? Smurfette asked. Ahsoka's expression was troubled. Politics isn't my strength. I'm a soldier. I follow orders and try to do the right thing within that framework. But lately, she trailed off, clearly conflicted. Obi-Wan approached, stroking his beard thoughtfully. I apologize for the Chancellor's intensity. He means well, but he can be overwhelming. He's carried tremendous burdens during this war, made impossible decisions. It's changed him. Or revealed what he always was, Papa Smurf said carefully. Obi-Wan's eyes sharpened. That's a bold statement about the Republic's leader. Is it wrong? The Jedi Master was silent for a long moment. Then, let's get you to your quarters. We have 4 days until Alderaan. I'd like to hear your story properly, how you came to be here, what you've experienced. And perhaps, he glanced around, ensuring they weren't overheard. Perhaps we can discuss certain concerns in private. The quarters assigned to the Smurfs were in a little-used section of the negotiator, away from main crew areas. The accommodations were surprisingly thoughtful, platforms at multiple heights, furniture scaled appropriately, even a small laboratory space for Papa Smurf's alchemical work. Someone had put genuine effort into making them comfortable. That night, unable to sleep, Papa Smurf stood at a viewport watching hyperspace stream past. Blue and white light stretched into infinity, stars reduced to streaks in the impossible speeds required to cross a galaxy. It was beautiful and terrifying, a reminder of how vast and indifferent this universe was. Can't sleep either. Anakin Skywalker's voice came from behind. The younger Jedi leaned against the wall, his mechanical hand clicking softly as he flexed the fingers. Hyperspace always unsettles me. All that speed, all that distance, and you can't feel any of it. Just the ship humming around you. Where I come from, Papa Smurf said, the fastest thing was a running Smurf. We measured distance in how long it took to walk somewhere. This, he gestured at the viewport. This is beyond my comprehension. We're crossing distances that would take lifetimes, and you treat it as casually as I treat crossing a stream. Technology, Anakin said. It's what this galaxy is built on. Hyperdrive, blasters, droids, starships, it's all just tools. Though I admit, your alchemy is something I've never encountered. The Force can do incredible things, but what you did with that healing potion. That's different. It's like, it operates on rules the Force doesn't touch. The Force, Papa Smurf repeated. Everyone talks about it, but I still don't fully understand. What is it, really? Anakin considered the question. Energy. Life. Connection. It binds everything together, every star, every being, every moment. Jedi learn to sense it, channel it, use it to enhance our abilities. But it's more than just power. It's understanding. Knowing that everything is connected, that actions have consequences that ripple across the galaxy. And the dark side? What Dooku uses. The same Force, different approach, Anakin said, his tone darkening. Jedi channel the Force through peace, through letting go of attachments and emotions. The dark side channels it through passion, anger, fear. It's more powerful in some ways, more immediate. But it corrupts. Changes you. Makes you willing to do terrible things because you've convinced yourself the ends justify the means. Like Chancellor Palpatine, Papa Smurf said quietly. Anakin's head snapped toward him. What? You felt it too. When he was near us. That cold weight, that sense of wrongness. He's touched by the dark side, isn't he? Anakin struggled with the words. That's a serious accusation. The Chancellor is a good man. He's guided the Republic through its darkest crisis, kept us united when everything was falling apart. He's been like a father to me, gave me opportunities the Council wouldn't. He stopped abruptly. You care about him, Papa Smurf observed. Which makes it harder to see what he might be. He's not dark side, Anakin insisted, but doubt crept into his voice. He can't be. The Jedi would sense it. Master Yoda would know. Would they? If someone was patient enough, clever enough, hiding in plain sight for years. Anakin's mechanical hand clenched into a fist. You've been in this galaxy for 2 weeks. You don't understand the complexities, the political realities, I understand when someone looks at me and sees a tool rather than a person, Papa Smurf interrupted gently. I've dealt with that my entire life. Gargamel saw Smurfs as ingredients. Various predators saw us as prey. And now your Chancellor looks at us and sees, what? Power to be controlled. Knowledge to be extracted. I don't know his specific intentions, but I know that look. And it terrifies me more than Dooku's honest malice ever could. Anakin was silent, staring out at the hyperspace tunnel. Finally, if you're right, and I'm not saying you are, but if you're right, what could we even do? He's the Supreme Chancellor. The Senate supports him. The Republic depends on him. Who would believe us? I don't know, Papa Smurf admitted. But I know that ignoring danger doesn't make it go away. It just lets it grow unchecked until it's too late to stop. They stood together in silence, watching the galaxy stream past, both contemplating threats neither fully understood. A Jedi who sensed darkness at the heart of the Republic but couldn't act without proof. A Smurf who'd stumbled into a conflict beyond his comprehension but couldn't escape its consequences. For what it's worth, Anakin said eventually, I'll make sure you get to Alderaan safely. And I'll personally vouch for Senator Organa, He's one of the few truly good people in the Senate. If anyone can keep you safe and free, it's him. Thank you, Papa Smurf said sincerely. And Anakin? Be careful. The dark side doesn't always announce itself with lightning and red lightsabers. Sometimes it whispers, offering you everything you want, showing you reasons why terrible choices are actually justified. It makes you compromise little by little until you don't recognize yourself anymore. Anakin's jaw tightened. I'm a Jedi. I won't fall. I hope you're right, Papa Smurf said quietly. Because this galaxy needs heroes. Real ones, not just people playing the part. As Anakin departed, Papa Smurf remained at the viewport, watching the infinite stars compress into streams of light. They were 3 days from Alderaan. 3 days from the sanctuary they'd been promised. 3 days from discovering if the Republic's protection was genuine or just another cage with prettier bars. And somewhere in the depths of hyperspace, Papa Smurf felt the weight of the Chancellor's attention like a shadow across his thoughts. They hadn't escaped anything. They just moved from one danger to another, trading separatist armies for political machinations that might prove far more deadly. The war was coming for them. Not with blasters and droids this time, but with something subtler and infinitely more dangerous, the corruption of good intentions twisted into tools of tyranny. And Papa Smurf had no idea how 157 Smurfs could possibly stand against forces that commanded galaxies. Alderaan emerged from hyperspace like a jewel suspended in velvet, a world of blues and greens, pristine white clouds swirling across continents, polar ice caps gleaming in the light of its star. Papa Smurf pressed close to the viewport, drinking in the sight of a planet that had never known the devastation of war, never been scarred by droid armies or orbital bombardments. It's beautiful, Smurfette breathed beside him. Like our world, but grander. Bigger. Everything's bigger here, Grouchy muttered, though even his perpetual pessimism couldn't fully mask his awe. The negotiator maintained orbit while smaller transports ferried the Smurfs planetside. Senator Bail Organa himself waited at the landing platform in Alderaan, the capital city, a distinguished man with kind eyes and the bearing of someone who carried authority without arrogance. Beside him stood a woman of striking beauty and grace, whom he introduced as Queen Breha, his wife and Alderaan's monarch. Papa Smurf, Bail said, extending his hand in greeting, then realizing the absurdity and instead lowering himself to one knee, as Plo Koon had done. Welcome to Alderaan. I've arranged accommodations in the northern forests, far from population centers. The land is yours to settle as you see fit. No rent, no obligations, no Republic interference beyond the security detail the Chancellor insisted upon. You don't sound pleased about that detail, Papa Smurf observed. Bail's expression darkened momentarily. I've served in the Senate long enough to recognize surveillance disguised as protection. But I've also ensured the troopers answer to me, not Coruscant. They'll protect your perimeter without intruding on your daily lives. That's the best compromise I could negotiate. I appreciate your honesty, Papa Smurf said. And your efforts on our behalf. We're grateful for sanctuary. Alderaan was founded on principles of peace and protection of the vulnerable, Queen Breha added, her voice melodious and sincere. You're not the first refugees we've sheltered, and you won't be the last. This war has displaced millions. We do what we can. The journey north took 2 hours by speeder transport, crossing landscapes that stole Papa Smurf's breath, mountain ranges that pierced clouds, valleys filled with flowers in colors he'd never imagined, rivers that sparkled like liquid crystal. And finally, the forests. Towering trees with silver bark, leaves that shimmered in gentle breezes, moss-covered clearings where light filtered down in cathedral-like beams. This is your land, Bail announced as they disembarked in a clearing beside a crystalline stream. For square kilometers of protected wilderness. No one can enter without your permission. The clone detail will establish a perimeter camp 1 kilometer out, close enough to respond to threats, far enough to give you privacy. Papa Smurf looked around at the clearing, at the ancient trees and clean water, at his people emerging from the transport with wonder on their faces. It was perfect. Almost suspiciously perfect. "What's the catch?" he asked quietly. Bale smiled sadly. "The catch is that perfection is temporary in war. The Republic's protection means something today. Tomorrow, if military priorities shift, if the war turns badly, if someone in power decides your value outweighs your rights," he trailed off. "I'll do everything I can to prevent that. But I'm one senator among thousands, one voice in a government increasingly willing to sacrifice principles for security. Then we'll make the most of however long we have," Papa Smurf decided. "And prepare for the day when sanctuary becomes a cage." The Smurfs worked with remarkable efficiency, unpacking their transported village houses and beginning to establish a new home. Handy organized construction crews. Greedy set up communal cooking areas. Brainy began documenting local flora and fauna with scientific fervor. And Papa Smurf retreated to his laboratory, hastily erected from salvaged materials, to continue his alchemical work. 3 days passed in relative peace. The clone security detail maintained professional distance, patrolling the perimeter but never entering the village proper. Local Alderaanian wildlife proved curious but harmless, small avians that sang complex harmonies, deer-like creatures with luminescent antlers, and once, a massive flying creature that Nisser, who'd accompanied them, refusing to stay on war-torn Felucia, identified as a Thranta, ridden by wealthy Alderaanians for sport. On the 4th day, Obi-Wan Kenobi arrived unannounced, his transport landing just outside the village perimeter. Papa Smurf met him at the edge of the clearing, studying the Jedi Master's troubled expression. "Master Kenobi. I didn't expect to see you again so soon. I came to deliver a warning," Obi-Wan said without preamble. "And an apology. The Council has been pressured. By the Chancellor, by the Senate Science Committee, by military intelligence. They want access to you. Your alchemy, your knowledge, your abilities. The official request will arrive within the week, a delegation to study potential applications of extragalactic chemistry for Republic war efforts. We'll refuse," Papa Smurf said flatly. "And they'll apply pressure. Threaten to withdraw protection, rescind Bale's land grant, classify you as non-sentient biological specimens subject to scientific examination." Obi-Wan's expression was pained. "I'm ashamed to admit the Republic I serve is capable of such things. But desperation makes monsters of even good people. What do you suggest? Comply. Partially. Give them enough to satisfy curiosity without revealing everything. Share healing compounds, perhaps some basic alchemical principles. Make yourselves useful but not indispensable. And," Obi-Wan hesitated. "Start preparing an escape plan. Because if the war continues to deteriorate, if the Republic becomes more authoritarian, you may need to disappear entirely." "Disappear to where?" Papa Smurf asked. "We're 6 inches tall in a galaxy of giants. Where could we possibly hide?" "I don't know," Obi-Wan admitted. "But I know beings with resources, connections outside official channels. Bail Organa, for one. Others in the Senate who still believe in democracy over military expediency. If the time comes, we'll help you vanish." "Why?" Papa Smurf asked directly. "Why risk your position, your reputation, for us?" Obi-Wan was quiet for a long moment, staring at the forest canopy. "Because I've spent this entire war watching principles erode in the name of security. Watching the Republic become something unrecognizable. Watching good people rationalize terrible choices. And I'm tired, Papa Smurf. Tired of compromising, tired of justifying, tired of serving a system that's forgotten what it's supposed to protect." He looked down, meeting Papa Smurf's eyes. "You remind me what we're supposed to be fighting for. Small, vulnerable people who just want to live peacefully. If I can't protect that, then what's the point of any of this?" "Thank you," Papa Smurf said sincerely. "For your honesty and your help. We'll do as you suggest, cooperate enough to avoid immediate pressure while preparing for the worst." Obi-Wan departed shortly after, his transport rising into Alderaan's pristine sky. Papa Smurf watched it go, then returned to the village where his people waited for his report. "The Republic wants to study us," he announced without preamble. "Use our alchemy for the war effort. We're going to give them some cooperation, enough to keep them satisfied. But we're also preparing to leave if necessary. Handy, start designing portable equipment. Brainy, create copies of our most important knowledge in formats we can carry. Hefty, train volunteers in stealth and evasion. Everyone else, live your lives, rebuild what we can. But remember, this sanctuary is temporary." "Then what are we building for?" Vanity asked, his usual narcissism replaced by genuine confusion. "If we might have to leave at any moment, why put down roots?" "Because hope requires action," Papa Smurf replied. "We build because that's who we are. We hope because the alternative is despair. And we prepare because wisdom means acknowledging that sometimes, hope isn't enough." The weeks passed. The official delegation arrived, Republic scientists, military observers, even a Jedi archivist named Jocasta Nu who studied Papa Smurf's alchemy with academic fascination. Papa Smurf shared carefully selected knowledge, healing compounds, adhesive formulas, basic alchemical principles. Enough to seem cooperative, not enough to reveal the full depth of his centuries of accumulated wisdom. The visitors departed satisfied. Reports were filed. The Chancellor himself sent a message thanking Papa Smurf for his patriotic contribution to the Republic's defensive efforts. It was all very civilized, very reasonable, very much like a trap slowly closing. And then, 3 months after their arrival on Alderaan, everything changed. Papa Smurf was in his laboratory when the emergency comm crackled to life, Bail Organa's voice, tight with barely controlled panic. "Papa Smurf, activate your security protocols immediately. The war has turned. Chancellor Palpatine has declared himself Emperor, dissolved the Senate and issued Order 66. The clone troopers are executing Jedi across the galaxy. Master Obi-Wan barely escaped Utapau. Commander Tano is missing." And, Bail's voice broke. "Your security detail received new orders. They're coming for you. You have 10 minutes, maybe less." Papa Smurf's blood turned to ice. "What are their orders?" "Containment and extraction. You're to be relocated to Coruscant 4, protective custody and full cooperation with Imperial scientific initiatives." "Papa Smurf, they're not asking anymore. They're taking." "Understood. We're evacuating. Thank you for the warning, Senator. Thank Alderaan's intelligence network, we've been monitoring Imperial communications since the coup. There's a ship waiting at coordinates I'm sending now. Small, fast, untraceable. Get your people there. Disappear." "And Papa Smurf?" Bail's voice softened. "May the Force be with you. All of you." The comm went silent. Papa Smurf stood frozen for one precious second, processing the implications. The Republic had fallen. The Chancellor, no, the Emperor, had revealed his true nature. The galaxy they'd tentatively trusted had become explicitly hostile. He activated the village alarm. One long tone, too short, the evacuation signal they'd practiced but hoped never to use. Within seconds, Smurfs poured from their houses, grabbing pre-packed emergency supplies, helping children and elderly, moving with the practiced efficiency of people who'd spent lifetimes surviving. "What happened?" Hefty demanded, arriving with a pack already on his back. "The Republic is gone. The Empire has come. And we're out of time." Through the trees, Papa Smurf heard engines, military speeders, approaching fast. The security detail that had protected them for months was now coming to imprison them. The sanctuary had become a cage, exactly as he'd feared. "Move!" Papa Smurf ordered. "Emergency route Beta, scatter pattern, rendezvous at Bail's coordinates. Don't stop, don't fight unless absolutely necessary." Survive. The Smurfs scattered like blue ghosts through the forest, using every trick they'd learned, climbing trees the speeders couldn't follow through, diving into streams where thermal sensors couldn't track them, splitting into dozens of small groups that were impossible to track simultaneously. Behind them, Papa Smurf heard clone voices shouting coordinates, but the troopers were trained for conventional warfare, not hunting beings who could hide in spaces they couldn't even see. Papa Smurf ran with a group including Smurfette, Brainy, and Baby Smurf, his old legs protesting but adrenaline providing strength. They reached Bale's coordinates 40 minutes later, a small clearing where a battered freighter waited, its ramp extended, a young human woman with determination in her eyes standing guard. "I'm Mara," she said quickly. "Bale hired me to get you out. But we need to move now, Imperial sensors will detect this ship if we linger." The Smurfs boarded as they arrived, Papa Smurf counting frantically. 149, 152, 156, where was Papa Smurf? Clumsy stumbled into the clearing, bleeding from a cut on his head, supporting Grouchy who twisted his ankle. "Sorry we're late. I tripped over a root and then Grouchy said we should just leave him but I said no Smurf left behind and." "You did good, Clumsy. Get aboard." 157. Everyone accounted for. Alive. The freighter lifted off as the first Imperial speeders burst into the clearing, clone troopers leaping out, weapons raised. But they were too late. The ship engaged its cloaking field. Bale must have spent a fortune on this, and accelerated toward orbit, leaving Alderaan's beauty behind. Papa Smurf stood at the viewport, watching the planet shrink to a blue-green sphere, then a point, then nothing. They'd been there 3 months. 3 months of peace, of hope, of believing they might actually survive in this galaxy. "Where are we going?" Smurfette asked quietly, holding Baby Smurf close. "I don't know," Papa Smurf admitted. "Somewhere the Empire won't look. Somewhere we can disappear until this tyranny falls or until we find a way home." "Mara, where did Bale instruct you to take us?" The pilot glanced back, her face grim. "The Outer Rim. There's a planet called Tatooine, backwater desert world, no strategic value, controlled by Hutts not the Empire. You can disappear there. It won't be comfortable, but you'll be alive." "Alive is enough," Papa Smurf said. "For now, alive is enough." As the ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying 157 Smurfs toward an uncertain future in a galaxy that had gone from war to tyranny overnight, Papa Smurf allowed himself a moment of grief. They'd lost their sanctuary. They'd lost the fragile protection of Republic law. They'd lost the brief hope that they might live peacefully in this dimension. But they had each other. They had their knowledge, their skills, their unbreakable community. They'd survived dimensional rifts and droid armies and Sith Lords and now the birth of an empire. Somehow, impossibly, they endured. The war had come for them. The empire had claimed them. But the Smurfs remained free, vanishing into the vastness of a galaxy that had learned to fear them, respect them, and ultimately, failed to cage them. Small they might be. Helpless they were not. And somewhere in the darkness of space, Papa Smurf made a silent promise: they would survive. They would adapt. And one day, when the time was right, they would find their way home. The Force might bind this galaxy together. But the Smurfs were bound by something stronger: community, wisdom, and the stubborn refusal to let size determine significance. The galaxy would learn that lesson eventually. In the meantime, they had a desert world to reach and a new life to build. Again. The legend of the Smurfs entered Imperial records as a classified file: beings of unknown origin with unprecedented alchemical abilities, last seen fleeing Alderaan. Most assumed they'd died in the chaos of the Empire's rise, too small and vulnerable to survive. They were wrong. On Tatooine, in caves hidden beneath the Dune Sea, a small village thrived in secret. Papa Smurf's alchemy adapted to desert conditions, creating water condensers from Tatooine's humidity, medicines from indigenous plants, and defenses against sandstorms and predators. The Smurfs became whispers in cantinas, tiny blue beings who helped moisture farmers, healed the sick, and vanished like mirages when Imperial patrols approached. Bail Organa maintained secret contact, part of a growing rebellion against Imperial tyranny. Occasionally, rebel agents would find mysterious caches of medical supplies, sophisticated sensor equipment, or chemical compounds that turned battles in their favor, gifts from allies too small to join the fight directly but too stubborn to stop helping. Obi-Wan Kenobi, living in exile nearby, sometimes sensed something at the edge of his Force awareness, a void that reminded him of beings he'd sworn to protect and failed. He never sought them out, respecting their need for secrecy. But he knew they were there, enduring as they always had. Ahsoka Tano, having survived Order 66 and become fulcrum for the rebellion, carried a small vial of blue liquid, the last of Papa Smurf's healing elixir. She'd used it once to save a youngling from Inquisitors and now kept it as a reminder that size meant nothing compared to courage. The Empire never found them. Oh, they searched, sent probe droids, interrogated informants, followed rumors. But you cannot cage what you cannot see, cannot control what you do not understand, cannot destroy what refuses to be destroyed. And deep in his laboratory carved from Tatooine stone, Papa Smurf continued his work. Not weapons for the rebellion, not just medicines for the desperate. He researched, experimented, and searched for the answer to one question that consumed him: how to reverse the dimensional breach that had brought them here. One day, he believed, they would find the answer. One day, they would return home. Until then, they survived, adapted, and proved that even in a galaxy ruled by an emperor who commanded star fleets and dark side powers, there was still room for 157 small blue beings who refused to surrender their principles or their hope. The Force might not touch them directly. But they touched the galaxy nonetheless, healing where the Empire broke, building where tyranny destroyed, surviving where others surrendered. Small in stature. Infinite in stubbornness. And absolutely, unquestionably, free. May the Force be with you. More stories await.